Cool Figure TV. Revolutionary salute. Revolutionary salute. Like, share, subscribe. Welcome to the House of Revolution. You know I'm your humble host, the y'all mean the revolution, and you reap what you sow. The chickens just came home to roost. Be sure to wipe your feet. That means hit the like button. Like, share, subscribe, support the platform, y'all. Well, what make you laugh, it also make you cry. A hard head make a soft behind. That's what Big Mama, Big Papa used to say. You see, before we even get into the proceedings this evening, we do want to remember that America was just cheering ISIS and Al-Qaeda in Syria. You just put ISIS in power in Syria. You thought we forgot? Oh, good terrorists in the Middle East, bad terrorists in the U.S. Oh, good terrorists when they attack Russia, bad terrorists when they attack America. Oh, no, Uncle Sam, you can't get away with this. Congressional black coons, you neither. The U.S. government, you put ISIS in power with the head choppers in Syria, and now you got to deal with that Frankenstein that you have created. We're not going to let anybody forget that America was just cheering this same group. This same group was flying the black flag in Damascus. America cheered them and said they wanted rights. They were freedom fighters. What is this dude who just killed those people in New Orleans a freedom fighter? Because you called these terrorists freedom fighters in Syria when they was over there killing the Christians. Now they come here to finish killing the Christians. Let me tell you something. You don't give terrorists a taste of success. Oh, what? They feel like the whole world is theirs now. You let them get a biblical. They think that this is spiritual, that they supposed to take down big Satan, America. Now let's get started. Y'all.
So let's bring in NBC News law enforcement and intelligence correspondent Tom Winter. He's been reporting all morning on this. Tom, I see your new note, but I'll let you tell us what you know about. You're learning much more about the suspect.
We sure are, and I'm going to fold in the reporting of my colleagues.
It's going to be hard for these people to talk about Syria now. Oh, we're gonna watch it though. We're going to watch every word come out the news people's mouth when they discuss Syria now. Because now they got to watch what they're saying, because you can't cheer ISIS and Al-Qaeda in Syria, and then say that they terrorists in America. The world is looking at us like you fucking hypocrites. These same bastards is killing everybody around the world. You didn't give a damn. Now the chick is coming home to roost.
Julia Ainsley and Ken Delaney in here. First off, from an investigation standpoint, there is an active effort right now to investigate a potential improvised explosive device. So a homemade explosive device in plain English found inside that individual's vehicle. There are at least two other potential, again, not confirmed, potential improvised explosive devices.
In one of these videos we're gonna watch, the police say they got video 4 people planting bombs. See, it's not about this guy. He's not a lone wolf. He's part of ISIS. He got helpers here in America. This guy, born in Texas, raised in America, radicalized here in America. Oh, it's easy to get radicalized here in America. You know, ISIS like to call America the Great Satan.
That were planted in the area. They're trying to determine, are those actual explosives? Could they have gone off? And are they tied to this particular individual? So they're looking at that as well. It's our understanding that this person had on his person a long gun as well as potentially another weapon. And the FBI now says on the record that this 42-year-old identified as Shamsuddin Jabbar, and the FBI has now identified him publicly, says that he's a U.S. citizen from Texas, that an ISIS flag was located, and I'm quoting now, and the FBI is working to determine the subject's potential associations and affiliations
the
with
ISIS flag is right there wrapped around the pole, wrapped around that pole on the back of his truck. It didn't start off wrapped around the pole, y'all. The police wrapped that flag up so nobody couldn't see it. Social media is forcing the FBI. I told them they can't do the same bullshit no more. They even took that flag. If you show his pictures on the news, show this truck without that flag, and they wasn't gonna tell you about the ISIS flag. Social media forced the FBI to tell the fucking truth. We saw that ISIS flag on the back of this man's truck. So now they have to tell the truth. Yes, as he murdered Americans, he was gunning them down. He was shooting. This wasn't just no man ramming a truck. He also was shooting at them, and he also was waving his flag of ISIS, the same ISIS that America just put in power in Syria.
Terrorist organizations. Now, that ISIS flag that they say was located in the vehicle is believed to be affixed to the hitch on the tailgate. So if you look at this photo and you look at where the license plate is, it's a Texas license plate on the back of it, there's a white pole that kind of comes up there, and there's a black material, some sort of potentially a flag, a garment, whatever it is, that might be, in fact, the flag that
police tried to cover it. They tried to hide it. The people seen it. The people posted it.
Is there. So that's something that they're looking at, Kate. In addition, we're told that they're looking into this vehicle and where they got it from, but there's no indication at this point that the person who rented this vehicle, which may have been through an application. So there's kind of like an Airbnb for cars, that this individual rented out the car, but may not have known this person's intentions. That's something that law enforcement will continue to look into. But again, the headlines here, the FBI now formally confirming the information that we broke several hours ago, that Shamsuddin Jabbar is in fact the person they believe is responsible for this deadly truck attack. We are told that shortly we will be, from multiple senior law enforcement officials, will hear that the death toll has risen, that this individual is a citizen from Texas. He was driving a Ford pickup truck, and that truck had an ISIS flag that was found in it. And that's what the FBI is investigating at this standpoint from this at this hour.
When ISIS struck Russia, all the news media said this showed Russia's weakness, Putin's weakness, and how Putin was so worried about Ukraine that he couldn't even defend his homeland. That's what the news said. Well, okay. It ain't so fun ain't no fun when a rapper got the gun. This shows you Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and the United States weakness. You too worried about Israel, you won't protect us. You too worried about Taiwan, you won't protect us. You too worried about Japan, you won't protect us. You want to help South Korea, you don't give a damn about us. Oh, you got troops in Germany, you don't give a shit about us. You want to help the Philippines, not us. Huh? Oh, it is America who don't give a damn about their people, want to fly all over the world and help people become democratic like ISIS. You put ISIS in power, damn it. Now you got to pay for what you did.
Or I should say, that multiple special agent bomb technicians from the FBI and other local law enforcement agencies, in this particular case, it would be the Louisiana State Police, the New Orleans Police Department, but typically the Louisiana State Police is a pretty
people up. And everybody know it. I'm so glad for social media. We're not letting these people get away with that shit no more. Social media knew who that man was, for the police even want to give us the description. We knew who he was. Man, we was already outside his house when they got there. They have steel barriers, we finding out. They let this happen. They put up some plastic barriers. Man, these people is always doing this. They knew this man was going to do this. They let him do this. Now, what did they let him do this for? They're going to take some of our freedoms away from us and tell us they're going to have to protect us from ISIS. They probably finna go invade. It's going to be, if these people say they got to invade Syria because of this, that's going to be the craziest shit in the world.
Robust presence on this. They'll take a look at some other devices, which we are reporting, according to 3 law enforcement officials briefed on the matter, at least 2 other devices that were planted in the vicinity that is obviously of high interest. This really changes a bit the security picture here, because if other devices were planted where they planted elsewhere in New Orleans, obviously we're all acutely aware of the event that is happening tonight in that city, the Sugar Bowl, and what does it mean for that event? So a lot of questions here, Kate and Morgan, but I'll kind of send it back to you for any questions you might have as we continue to do our reporting and pour through this.
Tom, first off, excellent reporting, because for our viewers who are just turning in, you gave us 4 really big new nuggets that really changed the landscape of what we've been seeing. You talked about the flag, ISIS flag. 2 potential IEDs. 3, more details from the suspect. We now know he's 42-year-old U.S.-born citizen born in Texas. And 4, you mentioned that the death toll was...
Did you mention that he used to be in the military? Salute, yes, ex-military. Oh, do we have an MK Ultra guy here?
expected to rise. On that note, Tom, and I want to go back to that flag that we're looking at here, at pitch of the bed of that truck there. That was really striking to me because I also saw when that looked at that photo, those 4 holes in the windshield, the back windshield there that appear to be, gunshot bullet holes that may have entered the vehicle. When you see that flag, does that give us any indication about whether or not he was working alone or if he had known associates? And 2, Tom, do we have any, now that we have this name, do we have any indication of whether or not he'd had previous?
The man tell you he down with ISIS. He hit y'all up. He got the ISIS battle flag. What do you mean if he worked alone? Fuck no. He's with ISIS. The same group y'all been cheering on, talking about it's a new day in Syria. Now they can be democratic. They no longer head choppers. They no longer terrorists. They done changed their wicked ways. Guess what? ISIS lied to y'all. Now they killed Americans.
Arrests, misdemeanors, felonies, anything in his record?
That's something that we're still pouring through with respect to what is referred to in law enforcement circles as suspect pedigree. Where did they come from? What's their date of birth? Do they have any active lawsuits for or against them? Do they have any sort of criminal history? That's information that we're still in the process of going through, and we'd like to do a lot of verification to get to that point. You're seeing a video of the immediate aftermath. There were, according to a video, I think that were.
Who the hell ever wanted to check into if terrorists had lawsuits against them, buddy? See, he trying to lead you somewhere. But I got plenty of information on this guy. The news, why y'all ain't showing us the picture of the man yet? Y'all know who he is. I already posted the man picture because I've been on top of this. Social media forced the U.S. government to tell the fucking truth. We knew this was ISIS. The police took the man flag down, wrapped it up, but we already had it, and it was already posted online. This man was doing this on behalf of ISIS. When the FBI was saying this morning this was not a terrorist attack, that lying heifer knew the man had the ISIS battle flag when they told that lie. You don't want to know why she said it wasn't an ISIS attack? For football. She needs to step down. All because they wanted people to stay in New Orleans and watch football and all that type of shit. ISIS is on the loose. This man is not a lone wolf. Now they're coming out saying, watch, we're going to play it. They don't even believe he done this by himself. The FBI is saying, no, he did not act alone. They know way more than they're willing to tell y'all. But because they want people to spend that money, they don't want to say everything because nobody going to come outside. Everybody going to be too scared to go outside if they tell the fucking truth.
We're hopefully going to be able to show folks shortly that's just been forwarded to me from our affiliate in New Orleans. Basically, this stops, and then there's a quick pause or two, and then a tremendous exchange of gunfire. So the bullet holes that you're seeing on the back of that car could have come from police.
Once again, police didn't shoot the man until he shot them. Police didn't shoot at the man until he shot at them. Police was okay with the man running down the pedestrians, shooting at the pedestrian. We tired of this cowardism. No police is getting patted on the back. You did not shoot at this man until he popped y'all in y'all ass.
They could have come from police firing from the front to the back. They could have been, it's just the picture's not clear enough, could have been shots fired from the back to the front. We are told that investigators are looking into whether or not he was firing as he was driving this vehicle, that he may have been firing a gun while driving the vehicle. That's something they're looking into.
A black dude from New Orleans already went on the news. Shut the hell up, line of my people. Black dude from New Orleans already went on the news and told the truth. Yes, he was shooting while he was driving and killing people, and the police were not shooting back until he shot them.
We don't have that confirmed. That's going to require, obviously, a lot of work from an evidence standpoint. Clearly, some of that probably based off of eyewitnesses. We'll see if that turns out to be true, but they're at least looking into it. This idea, by the way, of flying an ISIS flag on the back of a pickup truck is something that we've seen before. Sayfullo Saipov, back in October of 2017 on Halloween, drove down the Upper West Side Highway here in New York City and conducted a terrorist attack in the name of ISIS, killing 8, injuring over a dozen. He had talked about, according to court records, the idea of actually flying an ISIS flag from the back of his truck, coincidentally also a rented pickup truck, that from a major retailer. But he talked about doing that, but thought it would attract too much attention and that the NYPD would see that and immediately try to stop him. Obviously, that's something that would certainly grab the attention of law enforcement. Frankly, anybody. That flag is kind of ubiquitous in our society. So that is something that we've seen talked about before, and that is something obviously that is of interest. The idea of driving through a crowd in vehicle ramming attacks is something that we've seen over the last decade. It's talked about in almost every single major propaganda that comes out from various terrorist organizations. And as we recently reported on NBC News Now, in a story I believe we talked about,
These people should
was
be ashamed of themselves to even say terrorist organization. When they fund them, they help them. This is your creation. This is your Frankenstein. Matter of fact, Giuliani, the head chopper that's in charge of Syria, you just took the $10 million bounty off his head. He killed Americans. Giuliani was number 2 in ISIS. Only al-Baghdadi had more power than Giuliani. That's why this is disgusting to me. Only Baghdadi, the boss of the caliphate, had more power than Giuliani. Okay, Baghdadi died. Giuliani is now the head of ISIS. He's the biggest fucking terrorist in the goddamn world. They just put this man in power in Syria. There is no terrorist with more authority than Giuliani, who America backed. And he's the leader of Syria right now. But they took him off the terrorist watch list. Okay, now he decided to attack America. I don't know if the CIA got him to do this, but his people motivated. Syria wasn't enough. They want it all now.
Is the idea of how terrorist organizations are now using AI to produce terrorist propaganda because it allows them to be anonymous. You have the face and the voice of it being a computer somewhere instead of being an actual person, makes it more difficult for investigators to try to determine who is behind that propaganda. So this is an evolving landscape, a reminder that as we've been reporting here at NBC News for the past 9 months, the FBI has been especially concerned about the volume of terrorism investigations and attacks and thwarted attacks. There's been a number of them, the Taylor Swift concert in Austria, the FBI.
Lies. America's not going for your bullshit no more. You just put ISIS in power. We're not stupid. You just backed ISIS, bro. We're not going for that nonsense, bro. Y'all backed ISIS. Let's just get this understood. You put ISIS in power. The number 2 man, they said that we're stupid. We're not stupid. The man flew the ISIS flag. Now they got to admit it. They tried to hide it. They took it off the truck. Social media had already captured it. Start putting it out. I swear to God, this morning, nigga, social media had random man license plate. The news was still pretend like they ain't no shit. It's a new day. You can't do this. I've been warning them. You can't do this type of shit no more. Hell no. You're not getting away with this. No more. And we know y'all down with ISIS, man. We know y'all down with Al-Qaeda. We just watched y'all work in Syria. So now I'm finna have to sit here and see, well, how do America tell us they don't like terrorism when they cheer terrorism on overseas? That don't even make sense.
And the U.S. is warning to Russian security agencies about what turned out to be a deadly attack at the Crocus concert hall there.
That's why Putin told people, see, Putin knew this was going to happen. That's why Putin told Russian people, don't come to America, nigga, because he knew this shit was going to happen, nigga. This shit been in the board. This shit been on the terrorist hotline. This been on the terrorist hotline. And just like the U.S. said they told Russia the terrorists was going to get their ass, Russia told the U.S. the terrorists going to get your ass. Warned all of its citizens. What was that, a week ago? Last week, Putin said, do not go to America. Russian citizens, stay away from there. It's more going to happen. It's more coming, y'all.
There were several other investigations, including an election day plot here in the United States that was disrupted, and a plot involving a relative of that suspect in France that was disrupted, as well as a number of potential incidents, not all necessarily tied to terrorism, that were thwarted before the Olympics. It's been an incredibly busy year in this landscape. It is at a tempo that we have not seen before, at least not since 2014, based on the officials that work in this space that I talked to. And so this is very real and has been a real genuine threat here, I would say, for the past year of this exact type of incident. The big question going forward is, how is it possible, knowing that all the information I just shared with you is information that was public prior to this event, how is it possible that a truck was able to drive down Bourbon Street in the early morning hours on New Year's Eve, when obviously there would be a lot of people out? There are a lot of people out in that street on a Tuesday in August, let alone at this time of the year. And as we saw here in New York City last night, it would not have been possible for this attack to take place. They fill up sanitation trucks with sand, and good luck to anybody trying to get through that.
Mm.
So obviously serious questions will need to be asked of New Orleans authorities. Was it an issue with overtime, and did politicians not allow those type of protections go in? Was it a failure on the police department?
No, they did their job. The CIA paid off some dirty, corrupt cops. They got a dirty, corrupt city where the officials is mob-tied. And then you get this type of terrorist attack. You know, it's just you start off the year, the people scared the motherfucker, as they should be. The U.S. cannot protect. I've been telling people don't go outside on New Year's. These people can't protect us. The border wide open. All it takes is for ISIS to get with some radical Americans, just like they did right here. This dude been radicalized. We're going to look at his background. But it's very fishy that this dude is ex-U.S. military, man. Hold on, man. Because a lot of these killers and shooters and shit be having ties to the military, man. We're still looking at that MK Ultra bullshit.
It was a combination of things, like it usually is. Time will tell.
Yeah. Tom, before we let you go, can I just ask one question about the victims in all this, the people who've died, the people who are still hurt and in hospitals? Because you said when we came to you that the death toll has risen, which is the worst news we could imagine. Is this because many of the injuries are very severe, and we're finding out that they're passing
Why
away?
they not talking about how Biden felt us, Kamala Harris felt us? I don't have to play when Russia was attacked by ISIS. Really, the CIA attacked Russia. All these people, these same people, talking about how weak Putin was. Shows he's a weak leader. He can't protect Russia. He's so busy with Ukraine, he can't even protect his own people. When are they gonna remind us how weak Biden and Kamala Harris is? They so busy talking about Israel got the right to exist. Do America get to exist, y'all?
At the hospital?
That's exactly right. The injuries here were horrific in nature. We're told, I don't think I need, out of respect to the victims, to get into specific details that we're being told and hearing, but we do expect the next time that we get a briefing from city officials for that death toll to rise. It's not because of any lack of extreme effort by the medical community. It's just injuries are injuries. And when you're hit with a truck at that level, high rate of speed, and if this idea that he was in fact firing out of the truck at that time, obviously that would have added.
What do the Pope know about this hit? He got these terrorists tied to the Pope too. I heard Notre Dame was playing today. All of that shit you got to look into is symbology. It's symbolic. Notre Dame was playing in New Orleans today. Okay, Notre Dame, who they down with? The Pope? All right, let's proceed.
Additional problems for the people that were in that crowd is something that law enforcement's tracking down. It's horrific, it's horrible, and obviously is going to be continued sad news, not only for the New Orleans community, but given the fact this attracts people from all over the country, we'll have to wait and see if other.
This clown talking about this sad news. He ain't cried. He ain't had to take no time out to gather himself. Clout chase. He just couldn't wait to run on this motherfucking TV. All right. That's pretty good. Well, let's take a look at the FBI. Let's take a look at the FBI raiding his home real quick. The suspect's home. Really broke my heart when I seen this guy.
The functionality and freedom of creation. Being able to integrate and change and develop at my own pace.
In North Houston, we have secured a perimeter in that area and are asking people to avoid the area. FBI Houston personnel and specialized teams will be on site for several hours. This activity is related to this morning's New Orleans. JLR investigates the FBI. Let's talk about the FBI. They are currently raiding a home in North Houston, Texas, in connection with that terrible mass casualty event in New Orleans early New Year's morning. New Orleans, around 3:30 a.m., a suspect who lives in Houston plowed his vehicle into a crowd, Bourbon Street, and then opened fire on police, and then ultimately police took him out. He's a former military vet with ties to Houston, and the FBI is currently at his house raiding it. I want to show you what is going on at this Houston home of the suspect. Check it out. FBI Houston Twitter account tweeted this out. FBI Houston and the Harris County Sheriff's Office are currently conducting law enforcement activity near the intersection of Hugh Road and Crescent Peak Drive in North Houston. We have secured a perimeter in that area and are asking people to avoid the area. FBI Houston personnel and specialized teams will be on site for several hours. This activity is related to this morning's New Orleans attack, but due to the ongoing nature of the investigation, no further information can be provided. So law enforcement is there, folks.
FBI Houston and the Harris County Sheriff's Office are currently conducting law enforcement activity here in this area and at this home. And the FBI confirms that they have secured a perimeter in this area, and they're asking people to avoid that area. Now, we were over there near that home trying to talk with neighbors, but the sheriff's deputies came in and told all of the media to move away from the home. I asked a few of those sheriff's deputies if a raid was planned and if they are planning to go into that house, and he said probably. We do see a lot of sheriff's deputies. I would say probably dozens of sheriff's deputies in this area looking as though they're preparing to do something. They are gathering in groups. Some have their lights turned on, their patrol vehicles, as they are blocking traffic and keeping traffic away from this home.
So the FBI is in there getting anything and everything related to this case. Digital evidence, computers, hard drives, cell phones, weapons, bombs, witnesses, anyone else living in the home there. Wild scene. The FBI is telling people to avoid the area while they conduct their investigation. Remember, folks, we've been covering this case, and it seems like there could be other co-defendants involved. So the FBI is probably going to see who he's connected with, any ties to anyone in this country right now that are on the loose. ISIS is involved here because the suspect, it's being reported that suspect flew a ISIS flag on a pickup truck that is rented by Turo. We're also hearing reports possibly that truck was in Eagle Pass at the border prior to this terrible, terrible tragedy. What in the world is going on here? This New Year's went with a big bang, basically in the middle of the night when everyone was sleeping, though people were all over the streets of New Orleans, Bourbon Street, very popular area. They have the Sugar Bowl. Some of the victims are from areas affiliated with home teams of the Sugar Bowl, right? Notre Dame in Georgia. About 15 people lost their lives. There's some reports of 10, others 15, 30, 35 people injured. Terrible, terrible tragedy. Are there terrorists out on the loose in this country? We are covering this case and monitoring this situation. Subscribe to the channel, like, hit the notification button. When more information comes out, you will hear.
Being here today and for your patience. First, I want to acknowledge the victims of today's horrific attack. The FBI and our partners are working diligently to investigate.
Now, this black lady needs to step down. She don't even have no damn shame. We just seen her on the news this morning telling us this wasn't a terrorist attack. After the mayor of New Orleans said it was a terrorist attack, she went out there and on behalf of the FBI and Massa said, no, this is not a terrorist event. She already knew because it was daytime. Remember, they found the black flag. This shit happened at 3 o'clock in the morning. She already knew that dude was flying the flag of ISIS, and she came out and told a bold-faced lie. This is not a terrorist attack. Why? To keep the football going, to keep the booze flowing, to keep the spinners spending. That's disgusting. Now, because social media forced these liars. Look at all these liars. Why nobody not crying? These people don't never have. I keep bringing every time dead people. These people never with tears in their eyes. These people don't give a shit about us. But if this was Israel, they'd be pissed off, breaking shit, crying, and they'd be talking about another $10 billion package to Israel.
And find answers on behalf of the victims, the citizens and residents of Louisiana, and everyone visiting the city. I'm going to provide you some facts and information about what we do know.
Got no facts.
I know that all of you will have questions, and we will try to provide some answers. But this is an ongoing investigation that's rapidly evolving. So there are some questions I will be unable to answer at this time.
These type of people.
The FBI is the lead investigative agency, and we're investigating this as an attack of terrorism along with our partners. Today at approximately 3:15 a.m. Central Standard Time, an individual drove a pickup truck into a crowd on Bourbon Street in New Orleans, killing at least 10 individuals and injuring dozens more. After hitting the crowd, he exited the vehicle and fired upon local law enforcement. Law enforcement.
Hold up, that good dinner, man. Salute. I don't like that. I don't like what she just said because that's not true. The man, she said, it might be a man too. I don't know. He, she, whatever. This individual said that the terrorists rammed the truck and the people killing people, then jumped out, fired at police. That's not what happened. The man was ramming people and shooting at people at the same damn time. It's a black dude on TV. I might have that. He already interviewed and said that the dude was riding by shooting. And that's why, you know what? This is what makes it embarrassing for the police because they never fired a shot at that man until that man shot at them. That's disgusting. They're going to let him kill as many people as he wanted while they hid out. They keep talking about it was 300 officers there. What the fuck y'all was doing except getting that overtime? Because you said you definitely was not saving the people.
Enforcement returned fire and the subject was pronounced deceased at the scene. 2 law enforcement officers were injured and transported to local hospitals. The subject has been identified as 42-year-old Samsud Dim Jabbar, a U.S.-born citizen from Texas. He was driving a Ford pickup truck, which appears to be rented, and we are working to confirm how the subject came in possession of this vehicle. An ISIS flag was located on the trailer hitch of the vehicle, and the FBI is working to determine the subject's potential associations and affiliations with terrorist organizations. Weapons and potential improvised explosive devices, IEDs, were located in the subject's vehicle. Other potential IEDs were also located in the French Quarter. As of now, 2 IEDs have been found and rendered safe. The FBI Special Agent bomb technicians, as well as our local law enforcement partners, have been working to determine if any of these devices are viable, and they will work to render those devices safe. The FBI, we are working with our partners to investigate this as an act of terrorism. We're aggressively running down all of the leads to identify the possible subject's associates.
I don't feel safe with her talk. I swear to God. Take the mic from her. I don't feel safe. I feel like she's lying. I feel like this is too big for her. The moment is too big for her. She wasn't prepared for this morning. You told that lie, man. You told the people that this was not a terrorist event. Now you got to come out there and say it is a terrorist event. Man flying that flag of ISIS. You knew that last night, but you still lied to us. We can't believe a word you say.
We're working to ensure that there is no further threat. We do not believe that Jabbar was solely responsible. We are aggressively running down every lead, including those of his known associates.
You see that?
That's why.
That is a very key fact. They're forced to say, they never say that. They usually always say, no, lone wolf. We don't care what nobody else say. He did it by himself. Now, for the first time, I done ever heard them say, no, he didn't act. They didn't act alone. It's terrorists on the motherfucking loose right now in America. That's a fact.
That's why we need the public's help. We are asking if anybody has any interactions with Samsud Dim Jabbar in the last 72 hours that you contact us. The FBI is asking the public's help. We're asking anyone who has information, video, or pictures to provide it to the FBI. We have set up a digital tip line as well as our 1-800 number, 1-800-CALL-FBI. Please provide us with any information that you can assist us in this investigation.
We don't trust you.
Once again, thank you for your patience and assistance. For an updated statement or information, please check the FBI's website and our social media accounts. I will now turn over to Mayor Cantrell.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Agent Duncan, for your leadership and the full support of the FBI. First and foremost, I want to express my deepest condolences to the families and loved ones that were impacted by this tragedy on Bourbon Street and in the heart of the city of New Orleans. And I know that the entire New Orleans City Council grieves along right with me, no doubt about that, and our people and our families. My priority will continue to be to ensure that victims that remain on Bourbon Street now will be serviced and removed as soon as possible. But as stated, the FBI is in charge of this investigation and are doing everything necessary to make this happen. I also want to acknowledge hearing from President Biden, all of our federal partners, but most importantly, calling Governor Landry this morning, responded with haste. And we do say thank you. And of course, a demonstration of a unified support is right here in this room. That's how we collectively responded to this tragedy in the city of New Orleans. The mission now is to facilitate, support, and coordinate safety procedures to keep our residents and our visitors safe. I've gone to the hospital along with Chief Kirkpatrick to visit our police officers, and considering their injuries, they're doing well. As I mentioned, this investigation is ongoing, and the FBI remains the lead in the investigation. It is an active crime scene as well. We are committed, no doubt, to uncovering all details surrounding this tragedy. And we're taking every necessary step to put even more safety procedures in place, especially given the nature of the investigation. I'm going to ask people to do not go around our secured area if there is no essential need to do so. It matters, and again, it is an active crime scene. I also want you all to know that the Greater New Orleans Foundation has set up a fund to assist victims, and that information will be provided to you. Thank you, Ganoff. Again, I want to thank this unified team. We're leaning in. We will be relentless, and we will do everything that it takes to render real justice. This team will. I want to also just thank our citizens for your heartfelt prayers. New Orleans is a world-class city, and I can say that I've heard from world leaders all this morning and up until now.
What a joke. Ma'am, are you mad at ISIS? Do any of these people hate ISIS? Or any of these people even mad? Look at them. If I didn't know a bunch of people, listen, if I didn't know why we was here, their faces don't tell me a terrorist attack just happened. ISIS slaughtered over a dozen people, injuring dozens, fired at cops, planted bombs different places, and they told us ISIS didn't act alone. But they're calm. And they're not even saying, we're going to take it to ISIS. Wherever we can find ISIS, we're going to rip ISIS from limb to limb. Why are they not talking like that? Because they know where the fuck ISIS is at. They in Syria. They just put ISIS in power. The whole world is looking like this what your ass get. You just put the head choppers in power in Damascus and didn't give a damn. Talking about you overthrowing the sword. Now look what happened. The chickens done came home to roost, like Malcolm said.
In addition to my brother and sister mayors across this country, they're calling, they're responding, and they're standing with the city of New Orleans. And what they always say and want me to reiterate, they understand the resilience of this community. And we're strong in that regard. And I will say second to none.
Man, why did y'all put ISIS in
So
power?
with that, I'm going to turn it over to our governor. And as I mentioned, who has not wavered any in leaning in, providing the necessary support, and standing right here with me. And I say thank you, Governor.
I'm finna call
And I know the
FBI.
First Lady is standing with us.
I'm
as
gonna
well.
call FBI. Y'all want to call FBI live and say we know where you can find the leader of ISIS right now. He used to be worth 10 million. Y'all took the bounty off his head. Are y'all still looking for him? This Configure platform. I got me and some of my revolutionaries in here. We have a tip for the U.S. government. We know where the leader of ISIS is at. He's in Syria. He runs Syria now, U.S. government. Are y'all looking for the guy who's the head of this organization? He was the number 2. Al-Baghdadi died. That make him number 1. Come on now. He's in Syria.
Well,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you. Again, I want to thank the mayor. Since about 3:45 this morning, when she called me, we have all been working.
These people know what they did.
Just around the clock to both secure the city and to solve this act. You know, again, I want to reiterate that our prayers go out with all of those who have been affected by this tragedy. I want to thank our law enforcement officers. I want to thank our medical personnel. I want to thank our first responders. And most importantly, I want to thank the 2 New Orleans police officers who not only laid their life on the line, but were able to eliminate the threat this morning. Let me say, we have made public safety a state priority from day one. And I think that if you look around me today, right now, and you look at the people who are standing around, that is their commitment as well. We intend to be transparent in assessing any defects that may have existed in the system so that we can address it. It's the only way to ensure that any mistakes that were made are corrected. Specifically, we have been trying and working very diligently to address security concerns in preparation for the Super Bowl since October.
That's all they worry about, money.
And it's interesting because, ironically, in preparation for the Super Bowl, I had intended to issue an emergency declaration tomorrow so that we could bring all of our federal, state, and local agencies to bear in preparation for the Super Bowl and Mardi Gras. But because of the events today, I have amended that emergency declaration and issued it today. So again, that declaration will allow our federal, state, and local partners to bring all of the resources necessary to get this city safe. In light of that executive order, I have also ordered the mobilization of a military police company. I've asked General Freelou to mobilize a military police company to assist both New Orleans Police and LSP and the FBI. It is for our citizens and guests of this state to know that we are doing everything we can to secure their safety in this city. We want to make it clear the Superdome and the surrounding area is safe.
Lies.
But I've always said that the safety of this entire city is something.
Now, come on, brother. How would you know that, man? And you just told us the man didn't act alone. We see more lies. You want people to go spend money, don't you? Well, hold on. Let's hear. Let's see. We're gonna get back. We're gonna get back to that and knowing just what happened. But we gotta understand where did this Frankenstein? How did we get here today? How did we get to the New Orleans slaughter by the CIA's Frankenstein ISIS?
AM. Shamsuddin. Yes, that was his name. He is a former U.S. serviceman. Shamsuddin Jabbar. That was his name. Flying the black flags of ISIS, murdered 10 innocent revelers in New Orleans, celebrating New Year, and they didn't even get to see the sun rise on 2025. 10 dead, dozens wounded. And then Shamsuddin Jabbar got out of his pickup truck armed to the teeth, and with an IED inside his vehicle alongside the black flag of ISIS. And he opened fire on law enforcement, which skillfully and bravely took him down. But there are more conspirators involved. It's believed 4 or 5 co-conspirators of ISIS are at large in the French Quarter of New Orleans, where...
That's a fact. Now, for them to tell us he didn't act alone, I seen them say it was 4 or 5 people on the run who also planted explosive devices. For them to say everything is okay, goes, they don't give a damn about the people. They all about money. That's serious business. That's disgusting. No, everything is not okay. ISIS is on the loose. You're Frankenstein. They wasn't happy just taking Syria. They want it all.
Other IEDs have been discovered. The monster is called a monster for a reason. And the reason I'm laboring this point is surely obvious, even to the thickest skulls in Western capitals. You cannot play with the terrorist monster. You cannot expect it to stay in the area of operations that you have licensed it to, armed it to, funded it to, proselytized for it to, propagandized for it to. For all of that is exactly what we have done. And we didn't just do it in Syria in the last few weeks, in the last few years. We did it in country after country after country. We did it against President Nasser in Egypt. We founded the so-called Muslim Brotherhood in the 1920s in Egypt with the purpose of undermining Arab unity, Arab national unity. And ultimately, we used that Muslim Brotherhood to try to subvert, undermine, and if possible, bring down the great Gamal Abdel Nasser, the greatest Arab leader of modern times. And we did it in Palestine, in Gaza, to undermine and weaken, and if possible, bring down my friend, the late President Arafat. And we did it in Afghanistan. This is something the Americans have now wiped from their collective memory. The reason there was a Taliban in the first place was that the recently departed and apparently saintly James L. Carter and Zbigniew Brzezinski, his Secretary of State.
See, what Americans need to realize is when you see these fundamentalist, radical, Wahhabist, sectarian terrorists, the U.S. created them to overthrow secular revolutionary Arab nations like Libya, like Egypt was with Nasser, like he's saying, slightly like Assad was, where everybody can live as one. No. They created the Wahhabi madrasas where they go to school and learn to be fundamentalist head choppers. They created those places. They funded them to go fight the Soviet Union. They made those people radical, brought all the radicals from around the world into one spot. The U.S. funded it. They created it. Those people believe they were on a jihad. And let me tell you something. And George Galloway and I already said this. Everybody already said this. You allowed these head choppers to take over Syria. Now, you have a problem. They don't want to stop. They got a taste of power. And you still have Big Satan. They done already said you got Little Satan, Israel, Big Satan, America. Now, you have puppets in power that's misleading those fundamentalists. They really working for the CIA. But the fighters don't know that. A lot of the fighters believe it's jihad time. So they got to go. They got to go make sure these fighters go do other things. You see? And some of those other things just took place in New Orleans, man.
Created what became the Taliban, the so-called Mujahideen. And we armed them, funded them, proselytized for them. Sandy Gall every single night on News at 10, on ITN television in Britain, used to talk about these gallant, heroic, holy warriors, Mujahideen. And how did that end? They succeeded, of course. They defeated the Soviet-backed government. They brutalized in ISIS fashion the president of Afghanistan. They hanged him from a lamppost. They stuffed American dollars in his mouth somewhat incongruously, along with the penis that they had cut off from his body. Najibullah was a friend of mine, full disclosure, and his demise will never leave me. And I knew then, if I did not know before, that the mutilations, head chopping, obscurantism, imprisoning of women, the blowing up of religious and historic artifacts was to be the calling card of that type of people everywhere in the world, that the empire found a temporary use for them. So let me say this in parenthesis to Miss Halima Khan and to Five Pillars. If you have any sympathy with these kind of people, stay away from us. We want nothing to do with you. And we're sorry that we ever had. The reality is, this barbarism, this mutilating, heart-eating barbarism is a curse on the Muslims. It's a curse on humanity. And those who support it are placing themselves beyond the pale of human civilization. And no one should have anything to do with any of them. But let me close the parenthesis and move on to a more significant point. We have just put ISIS and Al-Qaeda in control of the Mediterranean country of Syria.
Come on now.
In the ancient Arab and Muslim.
Don't let that point slip by you while they on the news acting like they give a damn about a terrorist attack. You just put these people in power, these terrorists, and gave them an ancient country of the ancient land of Damascus, Syria. You just put them in power. So now we're going to see how they say they're terrorists here, but they're liberators and freedom fighters in Syria.
Capital of Damascus, the Umayyad Mosque, where John the Baptist's head is entombed, is now controlled by ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Now, you can put lipstick on a pig. You can even tie a Windsor knot on a necktie and put it round the neck of the former deputy leader of Al-Qaeda and the former deputy leader of ISIS.
Come on now.
You can put him in a suit.
Come on now.
You can put him in a tie.
Come on. Don't forget that. The man was the underboss to ISIS, underboss to Osama bin Laden. This dude, Giuliani, is a big dog. Baghdadi is dead. Osama bin Laden is dead. Giuliani is the biggest fucking terrorist in the world. They just put him in a suit, took the $10 million off his head, put him in power. And did he do them a little favor? Hold on. Did they ask him, hey, could you send some of your people to, shake our people up so we can take away their freedoms? Did they put Giuliani in power and then he blessed them with some terrorism in America? A win-win. Now they're going to lock the country down.
You can put him in a tutu. You can put him in a onesie. But he will always be the man who led al-Zarqawi's murder gang in Iraq. and al-Baghdadi's murder gang in Syria. Now, Western leaders thought they were being clever. We'll use these people. We'll use them to get rid of the Syrian regime that we hate. We'll improve Israel's security, though perhaps only temporarily. We will destroy the remnants of Nasser's Arab nationalist movement. We'll put these obscurantists in power who've just appointed a minister for women who's Turkish and who has made it plain that the life of women and girls in Syria is going to look much more like the women and girls in Afghanistan, henceforth. You can put the military commander of ISIS into one of the top generals' positions in the new Syrian armed forces. You can do these things, but don't expect that the end result will be any different to what happened in New Orleans at 3:15 this morning. Don't expect that you can control the monster that Frankenstein himself could not control. Because this nihilistic murder cult, death cult, has global ambitions, you know. They're not interested in the borders of the former Syrian Arab Republic any more than they were interested in the borders of Afghanistan. Twin Towers, anybody? Afghanistan, Tora Bora, 9/11. Do any of you Americans even remember these things? You've played with these people before. You've heroized these people before. You've armed them, funded them, covered your august journals with paeans of praise to them. You've done all this before, and now it's come back to bite you again.
The chickens come
in
home
New
with
Orleans.
wolves, like Malcolm said. That's crazy.
I love New Orleans, by the way. It's one of the reasons I'm so passionate in this monologue this evening. The thought of what happened there this morning.
That's crazy. The revolutionary forces is trying to extinguish this terrorist flame. They trying to extinguish it in Africa, Ukraine, France, US, Britain. They saving these terrorists. They trying to deal with them in the Middle East, Hezbollah, Iran, you know, Iraqi freedom fighters. You know, the Syrian government just failed. They put Al-Qaeda in power, but the U.S. is backing the. Imagine if it wasn't for the U.S. and NATO and the Wahhabis, the radicals, it wouldn't even be nothing. This is their pet. The Americans just don't understand this. The whole world understand this. Now the whole world gonna be saying, why did y'all get ISIS to attack y'all own population? You see, this is a baby 9/11. The whole world knows America. The CIA allowed this to happen. This is their attack dogs. They only attack when CIA tell them to.
It's almost too much for me to bear. And I don't know how Americans can bear it. I really don't know.
With our lives like this.
Now, this Jabbar, he's not an immigrant, not an illegal immigrant. He didn't come from Bangladesh or Yemen. He was born and raised in Beaumont, Texas.
Homegrown, MK Ultra, military vet, trained in the U.S. Army. Uncle Sam, we paid him to be a vicious killer. He wasn't no killer until we put him on our payroll. Huh?
He served 10 years with the American Armed Forces. He even appeared on videos on YouTube in his capacity as an IT expert. I've just been watching him. Looks like an everyday, ordinary guy. But in his heart, in the recesses of his mind, he had been touched by the global ambitions of this death cult called ISIS, called Al-Qaeda.
Because the U.S. told him that was a noble thing. I mean, we just been sick to our stomach at them gloating over ISIS and Al-Qaeda in Syria, calling them freedom fighters. They overthrew the brutal dictator. ISIS is not brutal. They act like ISIS is good. They're going to free people in the jails they was tortured in by the Assad regime. ISIS and Al-Qaeda is walking CNN around. Just understand this. ISIS and Al-Qaeda, that's who you over there chilling with. How the fuck is CNN gonna cover this story? You just was chilling with ISIS. Who the hell y'all think y'all fooling? This is outrageous that they playing with us like this. You just was kicking it in Syria with ISIS. Now ISIS attack us. Now we don't trust none of y'all.
Call it anything you like. It's an alphabet soup. But it all spells fanatic, takfiri extremism. Who, when they're not murdering fellow Muslims, including fellow Muslims from their own majority current of Islam, are murdering Muslims of other stripes. When they're not murdering Christians in Malula and in the valley of the Christians, when they're not murdering Alawites for no other reason than they are Alawites, when they are not cutting the heads off their own people, they're planning to murder you. Planning to cut your head off, coming to a Christmas market near you, coming to a New Year celebration near you. Now, don't say I didn't warn you. I told you.
I told him too.
Over and over and over again, I told William Hague in a trapped lift inside Parliament when he had just returned from Jordan, where he had promised what turned out to be massive expenditure of British taxpayers' money to the head choppers and throat cutters who are in control in Syria now, although not necessarily for the long term. Why are you sharpening the knives of people who may end up here in this building? As indeed they subsequently did. Thanks to a brave policeman, PC Keith Fletcher. They didn't get past the gate, but they murdered him. But if they had got past the gate, and if they'd gotten into the corridors of Westminster, trust me, they would have been just as happy using the knife sharpened by William Hague on William Hague himself. They murdered one of my colleagues, a fine, devout Christian man, Sir David Amos, Member of Parliament. They murdered him. They stabbed him 60, 70 times in his parliamentary surgery. These people don't care who they murder. They live to murder. Their purpose is murder. Murder and mayhem. It's like a devil dog, you know. You think it's your pet devil dog.
Yeah, that's a fact.
But if you leave your small child in a room with it, your pet devil dog will murder it. And so I make this plea, even at this well past midnight, to the Western public, for I have no faith whatsoever in the Western leaders or their media, to the Western public, demand that your leaders stop feeding this beast of ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and the other organizations like it. These are all the consequences of Western decision-making over decades. Syria is only the latest chapter. What Donald Trump's going to do now, he'll have to think carefully, because there's thousands and thousands of foreign fighters in Syria. If he now attacks it, the quadrant where these people are, it will be the equivalent of smashing a hornet's nest. If he moves in to smash it, they will scatter everywhere, first around the region and then around the world. There's a saying for all of this. In normal life, that normal, non-political people understand. Be careful what you wish for, because you might just get it. We've got Professor Mohammed Marandi from the University of Tehran coming up now.
Now, we'll get back to that. So I wanted to let y'all get a feeling for, don't forget, this is their monster. And they just was cheering ISIS and Al-Qaeda as they took over Syria. They just was calling them freedom fighters and saying they was democratic. And the number 2 man in ISIS and Al-Qaeda is the boss of Syria right now. So let's get back to what happened in America. And now you will understand the game they've been playing and the danger that they put us in. Bad terrorist America, good terrorists if you attack Iran. Good terrorists if you attack Russia. Good terrorists if you attack China. Good terrorists if you work for the CIA. Come on, man. Chickens come home to roost.
We're just hearing now from the Associated Press that investigators have reviewed video of 3 men and a woman placing explosives around, possible explosives around this area. Tracy, this is brand new into our newsroom.
3 men and a woman seen placing explosives. That's why the FBI came out and said that for sure he's not a lone wolf. I told you that's the first time they really say that, because they like to dump it on one person. They can't do that. No, he floated a flag of ISIS, and social media made him put that out. Now people are forcing their hand. It's terrorists is on the loose right now, and it's very serious.
So what does that tell you? And to the point about the sheets, I think the sheets were also put up to shield the hotel guests' eyes from the carnage on the street. So you're right with those 2 points. But now we're hearing this video of 3 men and 1 woman placing items, and it seems as though they are connected to the suspect. Tracy, what do you say to that?
Still can't get no description.
But this is very, very similar to.
Can't get no description. I don't like this shit. The social media gonna have to force them to show what do they look like? What color are they? If they black, fuck it, they black terrorists. Who are they? Can you help us? They might be next door. I just might have seen them driving down the street. This shit be so outrageous. Video of 3 people play. Can we see the damn video?
To the Boston Marathon bombing that was just brought up, and the Tsarnaev brothers, where you had 2 of them, right, placing those IEDs. This is not at all surprising, because I do think it would have taken multiple individuals to place the IEDs, plan on where that placement would be, as well as then obviously use the vehicle to ram this crowd. But what that also tells me as well is, look, I'm former law enforcement. I think law enforcement is actually doing an excellent job here. But it seems to me that there may not have been explosive sweeps that were done of the French Quarter and of Bourbon Street in particular as a result of securing this area, because part of me does wonder if that explosive would have been picked up by either a dog or a device. Again, I can't say for certain if that occurred, but part of me does wonder. There's no question they are now looking for these individuals and combing through particularly that digital evidence.
And Peter, I want to ask you about how investigators handle the IEDs. I want to drill down a little bit so you can explain to us how this works, because it's my understanding that some were found and some may not be true IEDs. You know, what is the process like? It's obviously a very dangerous situation. We know that robots are used in some types of investigations with this. Talk us through how investigators work with IEDs.
Well, the most important thing is the safety of the public and, of course, safety of law enforcement. So what they'll do is they'll cordon off an area and they will use bomb squads, or the FBI and ATF both have special agent bomb technicians. They will render those devices safe, which sometimes means that
one of the most important things is the safety of the public. Well, why the fuck y'all still trying to have football games? Terrorists is on the loose in New Orleans. No more football. That's over. Who knows? They might hide out to a Super Bowl. They really don't want to say that. You know, this might just been the beginning. The grand finale might be the Super Bowl. They don't want to talk about that.
Detonating them in place. And then what they'll do is they will look at those items, look at how they were manufactured, what components were involved, and they'll try to track down where those items that were used to make the ID were purchased in an effort to identify who helped manufacture these IEDs. But I mean, the most important thing, again, is public safety. And that's why sometimes these crime scenes take so long to process, is because it takes time for the bomb squad or for the special agent bomb technicians to go in there and render these devices safe, while at the same time trying to maintain as much of the physical evidence contained in these devices as possible. Because again, it's evidence. They want to be able to present it in court, especially if they identify additional co-conspirators. And then the other thing is they look at the signature of these devices to try to see if they're tied to potentially other devices or even devices that are found overseas, so they can see who is instructing these people on how to manufacture these devices. So it's a painstaking process, but again, public safety is the most important part of the process.
One thing that I heard in Brian's reporting, the last thing he said was talking about the fear, but also the anger, that these bollards weren't up, that the right protection didn't seem to be in place. They were working on it. That much we know. And for people who don't know what a bollard is, those are those short, thick posts that create a barrier. You know, we see them down on Wall Street. You've probably seen them outside of a bank, retailers. They use them so that people can't ram into a bank or a retailer. And we've seen them in some public areas. Not sure exactly. We've got the cars that Brian Enton talked about, police cars that were used to hopefully try to prevent something like this from happening. But, you know, now looking back at it, I mean, this is going to be a huge part of the story, Tracy.
This is going to be a huge part of the story, no question. And you know what's interesting, Laura, is that these bollards were put up in 2017 in this area in direct response to a vehicle terrorist attack by ISIS in Nice, France during Bastille Day. That's why they were put up. And they were refurbishing them, obviously, because of the Super Bowl and the other activities that you had mentioned. One of the things that they failed to do, the bollards, as you mentioned, at banks and the Capitol, all of those places have them, is they typically do extend through the sidewalks. And that's what they didn't have here. Those police cars did block off the street, but as we saw, this terrorist drove up, and as Brian mentioned, up and around the sidewalk. So these bollards didn't extend past there, these makeshift ones. And in my opinion, that was a security issue that was absolutely missed in this case.
Thanks so much for watching. Just go to joinnn.com.
On both the New Orleans attack and the Cybertruck explosion in Las Vegas outside of a Trump hotel. Now, we don't know if there's any connection between the two. We are learning there will be a 7 p.m. Eastern press conference. We will bring it to you live when it happens right here on News Nation, so you do not want to turn the channel. And right now we have News Nation correspondent Kelly Meyer live from the White House. So what more are you hearing from them, Kelly?
Yeah, President Joe Biden really getting briefed on both of these separate incidents, as well as obviously what we've been talking about throughout the day, what happened in New Orleans. But we did learn from the White House that he was briefed, they say, on the fire and explosion near the Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas, and has directed his team to offer any federal assistance needed. And I wanted to mention, too, because we're also seeing Elon Musk himself posting about this on X, because this was in a cyber truck, one of his vehicles with Tesla. So he said the whole Tesla senior team is investigating this matter. He said he would post more information as soon as they learn more. And he said, we've never seen anything like this. And later he did say, we have confirmed, he says, Elon Musk, that the explosion was caused by a very large fireworks or a bomb carried in the bed of the rented Cybertruck. This is from Elon Musk posting on his X page with updates throughout the evening. But we're also learning, switching to what happened in New Orleans, we are learning more about the suspect in that incident, a service about his Army service. We learned earlier today that he was a U.S. Army veteran, and we learned, as we just reached out to the U.S. Army from an Army spokesperson, telling News Nation that Jabbar was a human resource specialist and an information technology specialist for 8 years, and then in the Army Reserve as an IT specialist for another 5 years. He also deployed to Afghanistan for a year. And at the end of his service, he held the rank of staff sergeant. Now, we are waiting to hear more from President Biden, potentially this evening, if he is going to share more. He said earlier he didn't want to comment until they got more of the facts. He was briefed this afternoon by members of his Homeland Security team. That included the FBI director, his Homeland Security secretary, as well as others on his Homeland Security team and National Security team. But we are waiting to hear from him himself, as we now are learning more developments throughout today. And President-elect Donald Trump, I do want to mention, also posted earlier today. He seemed to allude to that the suspect wasn't from the U.S., but it later was confirmed, of course, that he is a U.S. citizen from Texas. And Trump also called the attack an act of pure evil. Anna.
All right, News Nation's Kelly Meyer live for us outside the White House. Thank you for that. We'll come back to you as news warrants. Thank
Talk about your other speciality, America, first and foremost. I don't know if you heard my monologue, but in short, I was making the obvious point. I call it an obvious point, but a very large number of people seem to have missed it, that ISIS and Al-Qaeda
Hold on, let me see.
that they have certainly been regularly and across the globe used by the West, only to discover yet again this day that the monster will turn on its owner, its patron, anytime it likes. Have I got that right?
Hold on. Revolutionary salute to my brother Drain Master for the donation to the war chest. Revolution is a way of life. Absolutely appreciate the love, family. Salute to you.
I agree with you 100%. The United States, if they did not actually create ISIS and Al-Qaeda, and I think there's good reason to believe that they did, or at least they created it alongside their allies, then they strengthened them, whether in Afghanistan or in Syria or in Libya or in Yemen or elsewhere, they played a key role. And when they create the monster, just like the monster of Frankenstein, they lose control. And I don't know the circumstances of what happened hours ago in the United States, but in any case, I think it's fair to conclude that it is most probably an indirect result of their own policies. And these governments in the West, they don't learn. Because their interests are not in keeping their people safe. Their interest is in preserving the empire. Otherwise, they would not have been supporting Al-Qaeda in Syria. The Jolani gang, they are Al-Qaeda. They were ISIS. He was the deputy head of ISIS, and he was the head of Al-Qaeda in Syria. And bringing him to power, and Western media collectively trying to create a positive image for him, they are doing an enormous disservice, not just to the people of our region, but to their own people in Europe and the United States.
The metamorphosis of the new Syrian leader, he's already said he'll be in power for 4 years before a single vote is cast, if one ever is. And if it is, how freely it will be cast must be in very serious doubt. But he has put on a suit. He has learned mysteriously to tie the knot on the tie in precisely the way of the English kings. Hence, it's called the Windsor knot. I wonder who taught him how to tie it. He is making noises, taking pictures with the Catholic hierarchy and so on, that he does want national unity. That may or may not be true. I personally think it's not, but it may or may not be true. But it's a distinction without a difference, because the people who brought Golani to power are this alphabet soup of fanatic Takfiri groups, and he can't control them either.
No, he definitely cannot control them. And these groups, for the most part, have even failed to accept his offer to join the Ministry of Defense. And many of these groups are not even Syrian. And many of the people in some of the groups that are Syrian are not Syrian. So he is going to have a very tough time. If he takes a hardline approach, then Syria will revolt against him. And if he doesn't, his people or his allies or his rivals are going to take a tough approach towards the people. And we are already seeing that. While he is taking photos with different people from different parts of Syrian civil society, and while he's meeting foreign delegates, his gangs and rival gangs are carrying out massacres and killings across the country. They can't hide this. People are living in fear. Bodies are being found. The Western media, again, can pretend things are all fine. And sadly, some of the supporters of the Palestinian cause in Gaza, who become big fans of Al-Qaeda all of a sudden, they can pretend that everything is fine, but this is not going to work for very long. This reminds me about the time in October, the first month when the Israelis began their onslaught on Gaza. Every time they would massacre Palestinians, Western media would repeat Israeli claims that Hamas is attacking its own people, that Hamas bombed a group of people who were escaping to the south, that a missile misfired, a small rocket misfired and slaughtered hundreds of people in a hospital. For a few weeks, they were able to get away with these lies. basically because of the beheaded children lies and the rape lies. But after a while, when it continued, then the apologists of the Israeli regime could no longer control public opinion. And those people who are now becoming apologists of ISIS and Al-Qaeda and the other terror groups in Syria, for a period of time, they can fool public opinion and perhaps fool themselves. But this policy, this behavior, the character of these thuggish groups that have been slaughtering people for so many years, that's not going to change. And this is going to continue. And these people are going to, Western media will continue to discredit them itself as they have over Gaza and elsewhere. But these people who've been supporting the Palestinian cause, they're going to discredit themselves because these images from Syria are not going to go away.
Now let's turn, can we, to Lebanon. The 60 days, which was inexplicably agreed to as a period in which there was a ceasefire, but Israel could come and go as it pleased, and it did come and go as it pleased. My own former father-in-law, so the grandfather of two of my sons, his grave was smashed and disturbed during the period of ceasefire by Israeli invaders. And his father, so my children's great-grandfather, his grave was unspeakably destroyed during the ceasefire, when Israel was still coming into Lebanon and doing anything that they wanted. That ceasefire is about to come to an end. That 60-day interregnum, rather, is about to come to an end. What do you think is going to happen there?
I think there's a very good chance that the conflict will begin again. I think there's a very high probability that there will be war because Hezbollah has warned the Israeli regime and everyone that the occupation of any part of Lebanon will not be tolerated. But this also shows Hezbollah was right all along. Those people in Lebanon who are influenced by Western embassies, or funded by Western NGOs, or those fascist militias in Lebanon that were involved in the Sabra and Shatila massacre in 1982, killing 3,500 Palestinians and Lebanese. These people have been saying that Hezbollah should be disarmed and the Lebanese army should deal with the Israeli regime. But we see that the Lebanese army does not have the capability to deal with the regime, because the Americans and the Europeans will never allow the Lebanese army to be able to have the power and the strength to defend the country. Lebanon has no air defense capabilities. It has no air force. Why? Because the Americans won't let them have it. The Americans and the Europeans only want the Lebanese army to have the resources to be able to crush Hezbollah, or to crush the resistance, or Palestinians, or whoever is a part of Lebanon itself. But the United States, the Europeans will never allow the Lebanese government, at least in its current form, to be able to defend the country. So what we're seeing right now in southern Lebanon is the ceasefire is being violated, and the Lebanese army is not doing anything about it, or at least it's not doing what it's supposed to do. And the United States and those others who are supposed to be preserving the ceasefire, as usual, they're siding with the Israeli regime. And we all know that the Israelis can do whatever they want, and the United States and the West will condone it, support it, fund it, and even facilitate what it does.
Now, the incoming President Donald Trump famously and oftentimes repeated his command that the war in Gaza better be over before January the 20th. It's coming to the end of January the 1st, so soon it will be 19 days. There are no signs, are there, of the war in Gaza coming to an end. The Palestinian resistance continues to fight. Even with knives, they continue to fight. And the Israeli massacres, daily massacres, mainly of women and children, show no signs of letting up. How do you see that happening in the next 19 days?
Well, one thing that I think we have to always keep in mind is that Trump tries to create fear. That is his technique. And after the murder of General Soleimani, which it's his anniversary right now, he said that if Iran strikes back, that he will punish Iran and strike Iran. And Iran did strike back at the Americans, and they fired, I think, 12 missiles at the Al-Assad air base, and the Americans failed to intercept any of the missiles, and enormous damage was caused. Now, some may say the Iranian response was adequate, some may say it was not adequate. But the point was that afterwards, Trump refrained from striking back. Also, when the Iranians downed a very $200 million American drone that was flying over Iranian airspace, Trump didn't do anything. So I think while Trump should be taken seriously, the United States should always be taken seriously. It is a dangerous regime that has carried out war after war. But I think they do recognize that Iran is a very powerful force. And they do recognize that Hamas has enormous influence across the region. They recognize the power of Hezbollah, Yemen. And if Biden could have destroyed Hamas, if Biden could have destroyed Ansarullah in Yemen, if he could have destroyed Hezbollah or Iran or the resistance in Iraq, he would have done so. It's not as if Trump has any special powers that Biden did not have. Biden said he is a Zionist. Biden's national security advisor was a Zionist. He was a Jewish Zionist, and so was his Secretary of State. You can't get more Zionist than that. So I think that Trump, having all the problems that he has at home, economic, social problems, and even now the ongoing war within the MAGA camp, and the problems that he has in Europe with the escalation in Ukraine and with China and elsewhere, I think that his hands are pretty full, and he probably is not that ignorant not to recognize that if he pushes too hard, that it could blow up in his own face.
Pickup truck into a crowd on Burbank.
Identify that's Ann Kirkpatrick, I believe, from the FBI, not from the local people. That we'll hear from them later. But she also talked about the identity of the man, which they do now have, and here's what she had to say on that.
At this time, we cannot go into details about the subject's history. What I can tell you, the person was an Army veteran. We believe he was honorary discharge, but we're working through this process, figuring out all this information. It's a range of suspects, and right now with the FBI, we do not want to rule anything out. So that's why we're asking if anyone has had any interaction with the deceased subject Jabbar in the last 72 hours. Provide us with this information.
Now, listen, we'll have to just say right off the top that this is a breaking news situation. There is a tremendous amount that we don't know. Lots of speculation from a number of different people. We're going to hear things actually by both President Biden and Trump, President-elect Trump here shortly, which were made at various times. And some information has come out even since those. But we want to give you what we do know, because there are a number of things we do know, and then we'll make some assessments of where things may go from here, because this is going to be very important. One of the first things that people want to make sure of is that, look, I saw this several times from my time in Iraq and Afghanistan and some of the preparation for those deployments I had. Sometimes you would have a complex attack to where somebody would take an action on one place, and when you had people responding, and while everybody's looking here in the aftermath, then all of a sudden there could be additional attacks. So if the FBI is right and that this was not a lone wolf, and that there were, in summary, other reports I've read said that there were at least 4 people involved, then the risk may not be over. It could also be that these other IEDs, I believe there were, by other reports, at least 4 of those as well. She said in that first clip I showed you that 2 of them had been found and taken care of, rendered inert. But the question is, what about the other 2? And are there others we don't know about? Another question that I've got, were they command detonated? Were they timers? Meaning, was someone else perhaps aware of this? That's what we don't know. There is if you haven't seen the video, I think Gary was showing part of it there. We'll roll it again. This is what happened. And let me set this up for you, because it's very interesting in how this happened, because you're going to see that's the white truck there where that arrow is pointing at. It's going to be moving down the road. Interesting thing you're about to see is you'll see a police car up on the left. You'll see the lights that are floating around it. He goes right past the police car and then makes a hard right turn right about here. And then that's when all the bad things start happening. And he rolls on down the street right there, and you see the policeman get out of his vehicle right after that point. What this tells you is that this is almost certainly a well-run operation from this terrorist perspective. The terrorist, by the way, was named Shamsud bin Din Jabbar, 42-year-old. He was a Texas native. He had only 2 minor arrests up to this point. So if you're looking for his past, so far they found out that he had just 2 minor, one for petty theft in Katy, Texas, which is a suburb of Houston, and then driving without a license. So no evidence that he had any kind of criminal behavior before that. But he was an Army veteran, and there hasn't been a lot listed so far. So we don't know what kind of unit he was in, what he did while he was on activity. Was he deployed? Because he's 42, so he definitely could have been in both Iraq and Afghanistan. We don't know what his rank was, how long he served, et cetera. As soon as we get that information, we'll certainly be sharing it with you. But what this tells you, and that's enough information to tell you, this is probably somebody that knew what they were doing, that had a methodically planned and reconned route. And the reason why I say that he was probably planned is because it seemed like he really knew what the lay of the land was. He wasn't surprised by anything. It wasn't just some one-off kind of, crazy deal that just plowed into a crowd somewhere. He knew where there was barriers, and he knew where there wasn't. Here is the police chief, I think, for New Orleans, explaining what did and didn't happen.
So we have been aware of the Baller situation for a long time. And we did indeed harden those target areas where the Ballers are. We had patrol cars out there as a hard target, as well as with barriers. Now, I want to share with y'all, if you did not know, that this particular terrorist drove around onto the sidewalk and got around the hard target, where he did have a car there. We had barriers there. We had officers there, and they still got around. Now, the wedges that you see out there as well, we knew that had malfunction problems. And I want you to understand, let's say we put the wedge up and it got stuck. There is no way that ambulance could get in or out. People couldn't get in and out. So we knew that these were malfunction. So we did indeed have a plan, but the terrorist defeated it.
So there you see that. If you weren't sure about some of that terminology, basically there was a number of barriers that they had. Ordinarily, they have Bourbon Street completely blocked off, but some of the barriers had not functioned. So they took what they thought was a reasonable approach, which is to have a police car sitting right there. And you saw that was one of apparently many. I think I saw as many as 200, or no, I think it was 300 policemen were deployed around the area to keep it safe. That will work if you're trying to keep somebody from like a drunk driver, which was one of the original thoughts. So maybe this is somebody that lost control of his vehicle, because obviously a lot of people are drinking in New Orleans at 3 a.m. in the morning on New Year's night. But they say, no, that's not what happened. This was intentional. So that if you have something like that and there's just a little bit of space between that, then somebody who's very much coherent will drive around it and get behind it. You saw that that was, no target of opportunity issue there. So by all estimations, this Jabbar fellow, this terrorist person, knew what he was doing and had made a plan. And I'm sure that's something the FBI is going to be looking into with a fine-tooth comb to come up. And of course, the biggest issue is right now, aside from is the danger over with right now, who was behind this? Has Jabbar just been a radicalized terrorist? Was it something that maybe he had been to Iraq and to Afghanistan or to anywhere else for that matter, and maybe he got radicalized by what he saw, that he apparently he was a Muslim by birth and by name at least, and so we don't know anything about his personal religious background. Had he been writing anything on social media? Those are all things we're going to be looking for. But I think the first thing that our authorities need to identify is, was this guy self-radicalized because of his experiences, or was he recruited by somebody from an ISIS background? Because as you heard in that first clip there apparently was an ISIS flag on the back of his vehicle. So this guy went into this almost certainly knowing that he was going to die. He didn't appear to have an exit strategy. He didn't appear to have any intention of leaving the scene. Because, when he went behind that situation there and behind the barrier and in front of the policeman, obviously he knows that the place is going to be swarming with police and that he's going to be found. And he tried to go out in a blaze of glory, which he eventually succeeded in doing. It did wound 2 police officers in the process. And of course, as the current death toll is 15 dead and still 35 wounded. We don't know the difficulty of some of those wounds and how far, whether anybody else is going to be added to that total. We certainly hope that they don't. They're in the initial time after this, and I know it was on Fox News and all over social media. Anytime you get information, people run to just spread things around without really waiting to find out. And one of the initial comments was that this truck had passed through Eagle Pass only 2 days ago. And so it had come from Mexico through the Eagle Pass and had come up here. That was the claim. Now, ironically, that could possibly turn out to be true, except that does not mean that the terrorist came from down there, because the vehicle was rented through Turo. And if you're not familiar with Turo, that's basically a kind of like an Airbnb, how people put their homes and their domiciles up for rent. That's the same thing with Turo, where you can rent an individual can rent his own vehicle or so. So somebody rented it. So that person, whoever owns the vehicle, could well have come through Eagle Pass. There was another report that it actually came through in November, and it may have nothing to do at all with what happened here. But it also may, and I'm sure that the FBI will be looking very carefully at the person that gave him that. Did he know what the vehicle was going to be used for, et cetera? Were they in cahoots on this? It doesn't seem reasonable that you would. If you're trying to avoid detection, you're probably not going to be the one to actually allow your vehicle to be used in the commission of a terrorist act. But you can't assume anything. You have to follow every single lead. One of the other things that we wonder is, was this an ISIS copycat kind of thing? Meaning that did he see how ISIS have done in the past? As I told you, I've actually seen some similar kinds of situations with this, where there is a vehicle, and those cases in Iraq and Afghanistan, it was a vehicle-borne bomb itself. And by the way, the vehicle, by all reports, was rigged as a bomb. It could well also be that his intention was to plow this in there and perhaps blow the vehicle up when the police came by, but he ended up getting killed before then. So if it was a command detonated rigging, then that would tell you his intention was probably to be surrounded. But apparently the police officers took decisive action very quickly and neutralized that possibility. The death toll could have been so much more. We don't know how much explosives were in those in the vehicle, because I can assure you from things that I have observed and training that I did prior to my deployments, if there's enough explosive in a vehicle like that, it can cause tremendous amounts of additional damage, and especially when it's that densely packed with people. Folks, this death toll could have been in the many scores, if not even the hundreds, if that had gone off. So it looks like quick action by the police department may well have prevented what is a terrible accident from being a catastrophic one for New Orleans. The next question is, what is going to happen because of this? And let me first of all show you just a couple of comments, one from President Biden and a second initial response from President-elect Trump.
Do you understand if the person crossed the border?
I'm not going to comment on any specific yet at all. I've contacted every agency in the federal government as well as the state. We're all coordinating to get to the bare facts.
Can you say if he was a foreigner or if he was a domestic?
I'm not going to say anything until I get all the facts and figures.
And then Trump released this on his social media, Truth Social, where he said that when I said that criminals are coming in are far worse than the criminals we have in our country, that statement was constantly refuted by the Democrats and fake news media, but it turned out to be true. The crime rate in our country is at a level that nobody has ever seen before. Our hearts are with all the innocent victims and their loved ones, including the brave officers of the New Orleans Police Department. I can't remember, Gary, is that the end of that? Is that the end of that statement? Was there any? I can't remember if there's any more than that.
Yeah, no, that's it. That's it.
Okay, that was the extent of his statement there. And of course, both of them, you see that they were asking President Biden when he was about to get on that plane about the reports. Did he come across Mexico? And Biden, of course, wasn't going to answer any of those questions because he doesn't have a lot of the information. Doesn't do the president of the United States any good to speculate because everybody is going to seize on every one of his words. And if it proves later on to be inaccurate, well, then they'll just come after him. So it doesn't help anyone for him to speculate on that. Trump, for his part, is just, I mean, he's not president yet, so he doesn't have any authority. But we can assume that he's going to use every tool he can to with the FBI, once he does get in power here in about 3 weeks, to continue to examine to find out what's going on there. And this is apparently Gary's showing here. This is the Army veteran who took this act. Don't know anything about when that photograph was taken, but it's just absolutely terrifying, especially that picture on the right there where you see someone already on the ground and someone just standing there terrified. It was apparently as the gunman's running by. It's just hard to believe that something like this could happen, in the heart of New Orleans. But listen, one of the first things that a lot of people are going to be doing is because he had that ISIS flag, they're going to be looking at what happened there. Now, this is where things get dicey, because I want to say right now, while all of the emotion is at its, only at the beginning, and it could get a lot worse here, we have to resist the temptation to say, oh, this is ISIS. They did that for the guys that are in Syria. So we need to, reinforce all of our activities there. We need to send more people to Syria. We need to completely go until ISIS is destroyed. Hang on with that for a second. Now, it could absolutely be that this was something that ISIS activists in Syria or Iraq, because they're still in both places, may well have tried to recruit this guy. Maybe they were on some of these violent extremist chat groups, etc., where they were looking for somebody, found somebody who's willing to do it. They were already radicalized and they pushed them over the edge. And if that was the case, obviously we need to do everything we can to destroy those people who took action against the United States. But these troops here, and I suspect that one of the things you're going to hear the current administration, and I'm going to push back on this even before it happens, and I will definitely do so if they do say this, is that they'll say, see, this validates the enduring defeat of ISIS mission that we have there. We need to redouble our efforts. This shows why what we've been doing is right all along. No, it doesn't. As a matter of fact, I suspect that if you do dig down deep enough, you may find that this was, in fact, part of the reason why it happened at all. Had we withdrawn the troops when Trump first said he was going to, actually the third time, but during his time in office, after the March 2029, when the ISIS had been deprived of their holdings in Mosul, in Iraq, and in Raqqa in Syria. But at that time, the military mission that those troops had was gone. By all rights, the U.S. should have withdrawn our troops and brought them back home. There was no more military mission, even quasi had related to American security as that was, because Syria and Iraq are the countries that are involved there, and that terrorist group was against both of the regimes, and it's their responsibility to handle their own domestic issues there. They needed to handle this, and instead we did not want to withdraw our people, and we kept them there and just came up with this anti-ISIS enduring defeat mission, which was nonsense, because with this tiny number of people in just dotted around on the map, and these in Syria and a couple in Jordan, and of course in Iraq, allegedly going after this, but all they did was periodically little pinprick attacks here and there. Last report I saw, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 10,000 associated ISIS people, and of course that's also a kind of an interesting thing, because it's sort of like the Taliban during my time in the Afghanistan, to where, yes, there were at any given time 2,000 when I was there in 2005, I think 15 or 20,000 when I was there in 2010. They're there, but for the most part, they're just local people. They're farmers. They're just businessmen. They're workers, whatever, during the daytime, and then they'll take activity because they didn't want the United States there. But for the most part, they're just Afghan people. For the most part, these are Syrian people and Iraqi people. And if they're lawbreakers, those governments have the obligation to keep their people safe and to take care of it. Here's the thing, and this is what I've been saying, and this situation here validates it. For these people to conduct a terrorist activity against the United States, they can't come here and take action against us, like the bin Laden people are alleged to have done on September 11, 2001, where they physically came to the United States and did all this stuff. This is not what these people did. The only thing they can do is to try to get a lucky shot like this to find someone who's radicalized and then give them funding, support, whatever. All that remains to be seen. We don't know how much of that may or may not have happened, but that's the one path they can have. But why are they going to do that? The claim that some make is that they have this ideological thing to come after the United States is not supported by evidence or fact. They have domestic objectives in Syria, in Jordan, in Iraq, wherever they are. That's issues that are there local. If we're not on the ground there, they can do nothing to us. And of course, many of our troops there have been wounded. Scores of them have been wounded. 3 of them have been killed because we're there. So our troops are already been killed and wounded because we wouldn't withdraw them. So that's already a big problem for us and an unnecessary risk to our troops. Now then they're going to, I bet, many people are going to say, well, we need to redouble that because of this. Look, and unless you go in there with like a carpet bomb and kill every man, woman, and child in Syria that might be associated with Iraq, ISIS, you can't get rid of an ideology. It's not possible. And if you try, then you're going to, same thing as what Israel is going to discover in the future, that you have created far more enemy than you ever took off the battlefield. I saw it with my own hand. There's scores of reports out there all throughout the last 20 years of how, if you go in there heavy-handed and try to kill everybody, all you do is create more enemies. It's a well-known fact. It's all over the place. That's the situation here. If we had just withdrawn our troops and not been constantly going after and killing ISIS people, then what do you suppose they're going to do about it? This kind of thing is entirely possible. That they're saying, okay, because you're killing all our people, we'll do whatever we can to kill you back in response. And they are so weak and have so little power. This is the only thing that they can do. It makes no sense for us to continue to antagonize them, to kill individuals here when it cannot accomplish an objective for the U.S. It cannot be militarily accomplished. You just can't kill your way out of an idea. And to continue to target them and to continue to publicly talk about how we're on an anti-ISIS mission, what do you think they're going to do? Anyone who's being killed is going to try to strike back against the person doing the killing. And so now then here, it appears anyway at surface value that there has been a response and just a really kind of a lucky situation. I mean, the fact that there hadn't been any in the United States since 2014, when ISIS first came up. I mean, that tells you that our counter intelligence services have been very, very effective, but nothing's foolproof. I'm sure that's another thing that everybody's going to be wanting to look at is how did this fall beneath the radar? How did the FBI not see this? How did the local law enforcement miss it, et cetera? Because, they're looking on all these boards all the time for any kind of information here. And one of the questions I've got, I'll be really interested to see is, was this guy already on the radar? Was he already on a watch list, et cetera? That's something that I think is a key question that needs to be answered pretty quickly. But in any case, it did get through. So the question is going to be, what do you do about it now? And what we need to be very careful of is that we don't overreact and go in a way that can actually harm our interest. And listen, we've already lost 3 troops killed in this so-called counter-ISIS mission, and scores more have been wounded in various rocket attacks, and they're constantly under threat of that on a daily basis. Let's don't double down on that and put more. We already know, and I showed you about 2 weeks ago, that the Biden administration, unbeknownst to any American, doubled the number from 900 to, I guess 2,100, something like that. It was over 2,000, more than had been told was there before. No one said what the need was. No one has since that time explained, why did you need to double up that troop number? What are they doing there? Oddly enough, no one seems very interested in it. Well, maybe they should be interested now to find out what these folks are doing to provide national security for the United States of America. We need to find out what happened with this situation, folks. That the FBI, the local law enforcement officials, federal other officials, CIA, whatever it takes, we need to get to the bottom of this really rapidly and make certain that there is no additional threat to the United States, and take action on anything that may be. But beyond that, we need to take a cold, hard, sober look at our policies to make sure that we're not unwittingly increasing the terrorist threat to our country. The primary objective should be to protect the homeland, to safeguard the lives of our men and women in uniform that are defending our country, and not bring unnecessary focus on our country that could provide impetus for those who wish to harm us even more desire and motivation to do so. Let's keep it down where it's necessary, and when it's required.
You may have. So even if you're a first-time home buyer,
It's actually cheaper sometimes than your traditional rent-a-car companies. It's growing. It's kind of like a. All right. Yeah, we're about to get this suspect up, possibly right here.
Good evening. I'm Shamsuddin Jabbar, property manager with Blue Metal Properties and team lead at the Midas Group at Core Realty. I just want to say hello and let you know a little bit about me. So I'm born and raised in Beaumont, Texas, and now live in Houston. And I've been here all my life, with the exception.
They supposed to be playing this video all over the news. Why they not playing this yet? I don't know. This man had this on his live. All the social media people is playing this. Why the news not playing this? Who knows?
Of traveling for the military, where I spent 10 years as a human resources specialist and IT specialist, where I learned the meaning of great service and what it means to be responsive and take everything seriously, dotting I's and crossing T's to make sure that things go off without a hitch. So I've taken those skills and applied them to my career as a real estate agent, where I feel like what really sets me apart from other agents is my ability to be able to, one, be a fierce negotiator. So not only do I brilliantly market your property to make sure it gets sold as quickly as possible or gets leased as quickly as possible, but I'm also going to take every ounce of energy and putting it into negotiating for you and for your property to get the best deal that you can possibly get for it. So once we get to the closing table, all the I's are going to be dotted, all the T's are going to be crossed, everything's going to go off without a hitch. And that is my word that I'm giving to you as your real estate agent. So if that's the type of agent you're looking for, reach out to me. You see my phone number on the page. If not, it's 832-774-9718. Give me a call. And
this guy is ISIS. Get the fuck out of here. This guy, this is the U.S. military should be ashamed of themselves. The U.S. government should be ashamed of themselves. Whatever play they just ran, it won't take us long to bust it down. But after analyze this video, no wonder the news not gonna play that video, because it ain't gonna take people long to realize this man don't know no goddamn ISIS. What the hell is going on here? Oh, he's ISIS, okay, because they told us he was ISIS. He had an ISIS flag. I don't know what the hell. You see, patches like this, he probably thought he didn't know he was gonna die in this one. You know, I don't know what the U.S. government promised this guy right here. You know.
Even if you don't want to have me as your agent, call me with any questions you may have. So even if you're a first-time home buyer or you're an experienced real estate investor and you're just looking for somebody to help you with doing some analysis on some properties that you're looking at, either way, give me a call. I'm glad to help anytime, and I'm looking forward to talking to you.
All right, so I want to make this perfectly clear. Not saying that that guy did it. However, it's being spread like wildfire. Guy has the exact identical name. He does look like a picture of the suspect. He has a same complexion.
That's, so I just wanted to play that. That was the guy, y'all, that they saying is ISIS, and he just killed all those people in New Orleans. A person, he probably living a double life. But yeah, for the CIA and military intelligence, he was into very intelligent guy. He was into some real dark stuff for the CIA too when he was in Afghanistan. He probably was in too deep, or he probably became a double agent.
Latest developments on today's deadly massacre in New Orleans. At least 10 people are dead after a man driving a truck plowed through a crowd celebrating New Year's Eve on Bourbon Street. More than 30 others are injured. Officials now calling it an act of terrorism.
The suspect, identified as Shamsuddin Jabbar, a U.S. citizen from Texas. Investigators have found weapons and explosives, and they don't believe that he acted alone.
Yeah, we're joined now by ABC's Aaron Katersky. Aaron, you've been on top of this story all day long. It's kind of disturbing. This is not a lone wolf case as far as the FBI is concerned. Why do they think that they're dealing with more people?
And it's so unusual. Ordinarily, the FBI is quick to point out, if they can, that it's a lone wolf attack. But here, they're saying there may be a range of other suspects involved, and the deceased suspect who drove the truck.
Nah, that's very dangerous. And that's why we got to stay alert, because the U.S. government never say a terrorist is working with other terrorists. They always say it's a lone wolf. Don't worry about it. Even if it's other information pointing to they didn't work by themselves, they still say it's a lone wolf. But all of a sudden now, they're telling us it ain't over. So don't try to think that you done made it or you done escaped, because there's more terrorists out there. And just like he said, that's shocking for the FBI to say that, but they absolutely said that.
Was not solely responsible. Why do they believe that? They have looked at surveillance images, we're told, and they see what appears to be some people possibly planting devices in advance of the attack. Some of those people may turn out to be bystanders, but they want to run them down, identify them just to be sure.
And in that surveillance video, there was mention of 3 possible men, 1 woman. What does it do in terms of the concern of a greater threat, that there are co-conspirators or people working together?
The authorities didn't necessarily spell it out, but the Sugar Bowl was postponed.
Mm-hmm.
And with all of that police activity, they found, we're told, crude homemade pipe bombs with nails and coils. What they're finding, the potential of other suspects, all that police work to do, they have to assure public safety. So they postpone the Sugar Bowl. That gives you a sense of how urgently they're looking for these other individuals.
Yeah, and right now, really, a lot of it surrounds the motive of what would be behind this. Immediately after the attack, there was speculation by even some public officials that it was a migrant or an immigrant that was. But now we're hearing that the suspect in this case is a U.S. citizen born in Texas, a U.S. Army veteran, and someone who then, when you looked at the truck, they said on the back of that truck was an ISIS flag.
Really evocative of the Cephalou Saipov attack on Halloween, 2017?
2017, right.
With the same thing, pickup truck, ISIS flag. And here it gave the authorities an early clue about what they were dealing with. And right away, New Orleans police were able to look at the flag and say, okay, they called the FBI. The FBI is now the lead. They know this was an act of terrorism, whether it meets the legal definition ultimately or not. That's what the police said it was. And it gave them an understanding of what this attack involved. But it's 3 prongs straight out of an ISIS playbook, if that is in fact where.
They don't know if this meets the legal definition, but they say the white guy, Luigi, killed the CEO healthcare guy, and immediately they knew that was terrorism and charged them with it. These people are sick.
Where the suspect got the idea of vehicle ramming, gunfire, improvised explosives.
And now the deep dive will happen into how he might have been radicalized. He was killed in a police shootout, so we won't be able to obviously ask him, but that will be something that authorities are going to try to figure out.
And that is already underway, Lauren, because they are investigating relatives, family members, maybe former family members, to try and run down who this guy was and what may have happened in his life to get him down this path.
We have no more time, but I mean, the other element to all of this is the security failure that happened. There had been FBI warnings across the country that there may be a similar attack. We had seen that attack in Germany recently. It's happened before here in New York City.
Yes.
And now we learned that the bollards, those metal barriers that were supposed to protect vehicles from getting into Bourbon Street, were not installed because they were fixing them?
They were fixing them. They had hoped to have them in place by the Super Bowl. That's where they got the money to fix the things that weren't working. So they put a police cruiser in front of Bourbon Street from Canal Street. The truck driver simply steered around it onto the sidewalk. It is a security failure, and the police admitted as much.
Okay, so they didn't pick somebody else up. This dude definitely looked like an Arab who they brought outside the house. Whoever they brought out this house, he definitely.
Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Keith Garvin. Daniela is off tonight. Investigators say that this man here, 42-year-old Shamsuddin Jabbar, intentionally rammed a truck into the crowd in New Orleans early this morning. The death count has now risen to 15. Jabbar, originally from Beaumont, had been living here in the Houston area. Police shot and killed him during the deadly attack. Now, Jabbar's last known residence was in North Harris County, right here on Crescent Peak Drive, as you can see here on the map. KPRC2's Corley Peel has been at this home all afternoon, where the FBI has confirmed they're investigating. Corley, tell us that there was a SWAT team when she arrived. She says that they witnessed some adults and children being removed from the home. She also captured this drone video that was taken outside the suspect's home. As you can see, there was a man here standing with his hands raised in the air. We want to go ahead and bring in Corley. And Corley, tell us what you've learned about the scene there.
Yeah, Keith, we've been out here all day long, and it is still an active scene. If you look behind me here, you can see Harris County Sheriff Office SWAT team is still out here. They have their armored vehicle. This is a property behind Jabbar's home here off Crescent Peak Drive and Hugh Road. Now, they still have this area blocked off, but our drone video did capture a man being taken into custody earlier, about a couple of hours ago. Take a look at this video. You can see a man standing outside the home with his hands up. There is SWAT outside the home as well, giving him commands. He does appear to be cooperating, doing as they ask. He eventually walks backwards.
That's ISIS. That dude, he just play. Oh yeah. I know ISIS when I see him. Yeah, that's definitely a head chopper.
Towards the truck with his hands up, and they ultimately take him into custody and put him in handcuffs. Now, at this time, we don't know who this man is. We are working to figure that out. It's unclear.
What you mean? ISIS, ma'am? Hell wrong with you? That's Jelani, hitman from Syria. Yeah, bro, we know ISIS when we see him. Y'all stop fucking playing with us, man. Y'all got the SWAT team out there. Y'all that took this man to jail. We don't know who he is. He's ISIS, ma'am.
Jabbar, we just know that he's at his house, but they clearly need to talk to him about something. So we will continue following that as well. But before that, we also saw SWAT. We have some video here as well showing SWAT bringing out some adults and children from a property behind the home. They were likely moving them to safety. They moved them to a command post right next to this scene to make sure that they're okay, because this is a very active scene. We know FBI has a perimeter surrounding the home, collecting as much evidence as possible. And like I mentioned, we've been out here all day. We've been out here since before noon. And when we first got here, no one was here. We didn't see any police or FBI. But about an hour later, we saw some undercover detectives showing up and telling us to move back because they had to put a perimeter around that house. And they didn't give us much information as why. But later we did figure out from FBI that They are investigating this home, and this is in connection to the New Orleans attack. So we are continuing monitoring this situation here on the ground. We've been getting updates minute by minute. We haven't had any updates since we saw that man being taken into custody. But again, it is still an active scene out here. Lots of SWAT, lots of first responders and crews making sure that this area is safe. Now, if you live in this neighborhood, you can't get to your home right now. They're still asking people to stay away. It's unclear how long this was take. The FBI says it could take hours, but we, of course, will keep you updated. Reporting live, Corley Peel, KPRC 2 News.
All right, Corley.
Now, the FBI referred to it as an ongoing and rapidly evolving investigation, but they said they do not believe he acted alone. They said they believe the attacker was not solely responsible for this act. They are asking the public, anyone who had any interaction with him, to come forward, anyone who knows who his known associates might have been, and they are on the hunt for those potential individuals. Officials are also delaying tomorrow's Sugar Bowl by 24 hours. Now, that's the first time that's happened since Hurricane Katrina. Louisiana Senator Kennedy said he thinks that's a good idea because, quote, there's just too much they don't know. All right, back with us now. We've got Ken Delaney and Frank Figluzzi, Jim Kavanaugh, and Christopher O'Leary. Chris, I want to start with you. We were talking just before the press conference about the potential of known associates, a wider network. Listening to all that, what do you think law enforcement is pursuing? How do they find known associates, and what do you expect them to find?
Well, I think there's two things that they're concentrating on likely now. Number one, the truck, any information that can be pulled out of that truck. Did he leave a cell phone behind? That'll be exploited. What other digital dust, what a digital footprint does he have, and who it points them to? And then physical locations, the Airbnb that he was staying in New Orleans, his previous residence back in Texas, and trying to illuminate his network and who else was on a platform with him that radicalized him, who else was susceptible to that radicalization or sympathetic to it, and who else might have mobilized in support of this. Other things are, the devices that he used. Yes, he rented the truck and he used that as his primary weapon, but how did he make these devices? Did he have the technical knowledge himself, or did somebody help him?
Where did he got the components?
Where did he procure the precursors and the components from? How sophisticated were the devices? So that'll tell you something about whether he acted alone or not, if he had expert advice. And then with the firearm, did he legally purchase it? Where did he train? Who trained with him? And that'll all come out from different interviews and interrogations, from video surveillance to this digital footprint that he has. All of that will start painting a picture and illuminating a network. The most important part is to find out who the potential co-conspirators are, find out if there's an ongoing threat, and get them in pocket, get physical and technical surveillance on them as quickly as possible.
And law enforcement officials there were a bit circumspect about how they knew or why they thought he had associates. They said they didn't want to mention anything that might compromise their potential investigation. Ken, I want to ask you, they also mentioned that 2 improvised explosive devices were found around the French Quarter and, quote, neutralized, and they are still looking to see if there are others. What does that tell you, and how does law enforcement proceed to make sure that area is safe, especially given the number of people that are in town for this game that's now been delayed 24 hours?
Yeah, it's pretty alarming. It tells you that, well, exactly what they said, which is they have been canvassing the area all day looking for any suspicious package, and they believe they've got them all. But you heard the FBI agent appeal to the public to make sure they hadn't missed anything. And it suggests that this was a very complex attack. It wasn't just a vehicle attack. Again, it was an attack with a weapon, with a gun, and also with IEDs. And so multiple prongs here, which is something more complex than we've seen before in these ISIS-inspired vehicle attacks. Also, going back to this question of co-conspirators, that was a bit perplexing to me. It's unclear whether they don't know the identities of these people or they do know and they just don't want to share them. They don't want to hint that they're onto these people. But oftentimes, when the FBI is trying to find people, they share what information they have with the public to sort of inspire tips and information coming in. In this case, they haven't done that. You said they were very circumspect. That's one way to put it. Several times during the news conference, they said, we're going after, we're going to get these people. We've got some bad people we need to run down. But they didn't tell us anything about who these people might be, where they might be, what their roles were in this alleged conspiracy. So that was pretty remarkable to me, and it raises a lot of questions. I'd be interested in what Chris and Frank, both former FBI officials, think is going on there.
Frank, what do you think is going on there? What's your take on that and the fact that you heard a lot of emotionally charged language, multiple officials referring to it as an evil act, an evil individual, but not a lot of details there about where they're going with this investigation?
Yeah, I was carefully trying to assess every word that came out of the mouth of the FBI Assistant Special Agent in charge there, and it is very interesting. One of the notes I took was, quote, a range of associates, is what she said in response to a reporter's question about who are you looking at? A range of associates. Wow. So they know there's multiple associates. They know that perhaps they're within a certain universe of people that this suspect has associated with. One of the great concerns I have, and some of it came from Senator Kennedy's interesting language, implying that he knows things, right? That you're going to get the truth about who did this and who. The worst case scenario for federal agents is to actually have somebody in your files that you've been looking at and that acts out violently, and you don't have a chance to stop them or him. So one possibility, and I emphasize this is just a possibility, is that somehow somebody was on the FBI's radar screen or some agency's radar screen, and that may have helped jump to the FBI saying, look, we've got this. We'll take the lead on this. Now, it could just be the ISIS flag, but to hear the FBI representative for New Orleans saying, range of associates, we don't think he acted alone, is not solely responsible, and to say that with great confidence indicates there is some knowledge there and what is it that leads them to that conclusion? Something in his devices already? Not likely. Something in his computer at home, something that the FBI files indicate. I don't know, but this does say we now know why the Sugar Bowl is being delayed. They're not ready to say they've wrapped this up yet, and that's troubling.
And of course, we don't have any official confirmation that he was known to law enforcement, at least not yet. Jim, I want to turn to you now because, you worked on the Unabomber case, you worked the Atlantic Olympics bombings. And one thing that really stood out to me is they said Bourbon Street is now an active crime scene. And this is a huge area. There's a lot of people in town, and it seemed unclear when that will lift. So can you talk to us a little bit about how you manage and go through a crime scene of that size? What is the protocol here?
Well, they're going to take all the bomb technicians and agents from FBI and ATF and the state police, and they're going to sweep that for, IEDs and suspicious packages. And a lot of that's already been done. It's pretty routine. And they'll bring the bomb sniffing dogs out. And, if there's anything suspicious, they'll secure it. So they're going to be able to secure Bourbon Street and the blocks around it. They probably already have done most of that. I don't think that's going to be a big problem. I think, like Frank's saying, the reason that they're not giving more is I just think their information on the contacts of the killer are just rudimentary and preliminary. I mean, I just don't think they have it deep. In other words, they're not calling us, telling us that they have co-conspirators or aiding people who've aided and abetted identified. They're not giving us a photograph or looking for this person. I think they just have associates, contacts who may be like-minded, and they're wondering and investigating whether this could be people who aided him, conspired with him, and they just don't have enough information yet. I think one of the key things here is the attacks at 3:15 a.m., we have bombs placed in the French Quarter, according to the FBI. Well, did he reconnoiter the Bourbon Street at midnight or somewhere like that, walk around and plant some devices, and then come back and, stick his ISIS flag on the truck and come in and drive through on the sidewalk, which I thought was a wholly inadequate description of the security there. The governor seemed to be the one who would accept responsibility that, whatever's done wrong will correct. But, proselytizing that, we have the greatest security anywhere, it's got to ring hollow with the families of all these deceased people and injured people when a terrorist can come through and drive on a sidewalk. How can that ever be an acceptable outcome?
Right.
How can that ever be acceptable? It's not acceptable. And it doesn't sound very well. It sounds like everybody's saying we have the greatest security, and it's pretty obvious you don't. So, that sort of rang hollow for me. I just kept thinking about the families listening to that. I mean, it just doesn't sound good at all. I do think they're smart to postpone it. And the reason, terrorism is theater, and it's a magnet. Big events are a magnet. Bourbon Street, New Year's Eve's a magnet. Can you imagine the attraction of striking New Orleans again at the Sugar Bowl? What a magnet that is for terrorists. And listen, they know that. They're watching everywhere. So they really do have to bolster security. And all the discussion on bollards is meaningless. Meaningless discussion. You should have put the dump trucks there loaded with sand. There's no excuse for not having that street blocked on all ends for New Year's Eve.
Joining us now from New Orleans is Republican Louisiana Senator John Kennedy. Senator, thank you very much for taking some time out for us. We know that you're very busy talking with law enforcement on the ground. There are a lot of folks in this country tonight that are afraid of what's happening in New Orleans. And I know that you're trying to get answers tonight as police search for other potential suspects, possible co-conspirators tonight. By all accounts, with this new surveillance video we have now, with what we're learning from police, this sounds to be some sort of sleeper cell, a terrorist cell on U.S. soil. Is that what you're hearing?
Well, I should. There's a fine line between anger and grief, and I'm pretty much straddling that line right now. If you don't believe in objective evil, all you need to do is go walk about 30 or 40 yards that way. I'm here for two reasons. Number one, these are my people, and these are my people's guests. Number two, I don't want to hear from anybody in the federal government that they don't have the resources. Now, the White House, the FBI, Justice, Homeland Security are in charge now. We're cooperating with them. I want to give them a reasonable period of time. There's a lot of information out there. Some of it is actually true. I want to give them a reasonable period of time, but they need to saddle up and ride. We need to find out what happened here, and it's not going to be covered up. We're going to tell the American people exactly what happened, and that's why I'm down here.
Yeah.
We know a lot more than what's being reported, Aisha, but they are in the middle of an active investigation, and I don't want to do anything to screw it up.
Okay.
But I'm also not going to let them take the pressure off.
Okay, got it, Senator. You did promise transparency earlier in the press conference that you took part in this afternoon. Are you getting the sense that the FBI had been tracking this suspect, or are you getting the sense that they perhaps somehow missed this?
I can't answer that. I can't answer that, but I shouldn't. I'm going to say it again, Aisha. We're giving the FBI and Homeland Security a reasonable amount of time to do their job. And by God, they're going to do their job, and they're going to catch these people.
Is the
we're going to know a
FBI
whole
being,
lot more in the next 4 to 8 hours.
Senator, is the FBI being transparent with
You see it? And they're going to catch these people. Terrorists are still on the loose.
you?
You know, you never know. You just never know what they're not telling us. But I know how to probe pretty hard and get the information. I'm not interested in placing blame or saying who was right or wrong. I just want to catch these sons of bitches who did this.
Yeah, there is an active manhunt, it sounds like, right now for some of these. We don't know how many.
He pissed. You're getting raw, real emotions. He out the loop. He know what the CIA did. He know the CIA got a terrorist cell running around New Orleans right now. And that's why he's saying it's some classified information I can't talk about, but he keeps slipping when he's saying catch these son of a bitches. Well, you're telling us the rest of the terrorists still on the loose.
We were told a range of suspects, perhaps 3 or 4. We know there's surveillance video out there showing some of these folks laying down IEDs around the French.
They think they're 3, maybe 4. Okay. I was disappointed early this morning. Someone with the FBI said very confidently, there's no chance this is a terrorist attack. Well, they've taken that back, thank God. They were a little quick on the trigger. But they think now that there were probably 4, maybe 5 people involved.
Yeah. So let's be realistic here. Just you're a straight shooter. So shoot straight with the people of New Orleans and Louisiana right now. Governor Landry says that there will be a Sugar Bowl tomorrow afternoon, that he'll be there and it will be safe. Is that realistic right now, given the circumstances?
We decided to postpone it by 24 hours, one day. The governor made that decision. He's doing a great job. He's in charge here at the state level. And I want to be fair to our federal officials and give them a chance. But, you know, I sat there and watched a 21-year-old kid outsmart the entire Secret Service of the United States and almost killed a former president and soon to be current president.
Right.
And we still don't have information. And that's not going to happen this time. By God, it's not going to happen this time. I will chase these people like they stole my dog until we find out what went on here. But I want to be fair and work with them and let's give them a chance to catch these guys or gals.
See, they actually, you keep saying catch them. Oh, the terrorists, she's supposed to say the terrorists still on the loose. That's what she's supposed to say. She won't say that. And he keep telling you we got to catch the people responsible. Well, the man they saying done it is dead, but he's telling you it's more of them.
One may have been a woman.
Is New Orleans safe tonight?
Oh, no.
Yes, but we're still in the process of tightening up security. We're still in the process of doing everything that we possibly can. The governor's called out the National Guard. We got more FBI coming. We've got Homeland Security people. We've got state troopers who've done an awesome job. We've got the NOPD. We're doing everything we can. But like I say, there's a lot of information out there. Some of it's accurate.
Okay. Well, we hope that you will continue to keep us apprised of what you learn there on the ground, and we appreciate you taking some time for us tonight, Senator John Kennedy.
I'm just so sorry. I'm just so sorry to all those folks who lost loved ones and have loved ones in the hospital. I'm sorry, but by God, we're gonna get this straight. We're gonna chase these guys down.
Okay. Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana, thank you very much for joining us.
You know what I'm saying? He got to say it's safe because they want to play the Sugar Bowl. He knowing it's not safe. Look at his face. Hell no, it's not safe. He trying to say it without hell no. Nobody should think it's safe. Terrorists are still on the fucking lam right now. That's crazy. And that lady, she failed everybody. She won't ask the questions we need to hear. Like, where do you think the terrorists are at now? Have the terrorists left New Orleans? Have they left New Orleans? Are they on the loose? Yes, they are throughout America. Come on now.
For FBI agent and Fox News contributor Nicole Parker. Nicole, thank you for waking up for us on this New Year's Day. You are seeing the news unfold, and we are trying to parse and make sense of the unbelievably conflicting messages coming from the mayor, calling it a terror attack, and then the now FBI Assistant Special Agent in Charge, Aletha Duncan, immediately saying it was not.
You know, Griff, first of all, thank you for having me join. What a horrible tragedy. I mean, I literally were waking up with hope for 2025. I was literally out running, and I got a text message from Fox asking if I could join. And here we are, again, discussing another tragedy in our country. I agree with you. That press conference was not good. You cannot send a conflicting message out to the American people and give them reassurance that everything's okay. That was very confusing, and you're exactly right. You have someone from the police department coming out and saying it's terrorism, and then you have FBI coming out and saying it is not terrorism, but there are IEDs involved. My gut instinct, this is terrorism.
Oh, they wrong. That everybody who said it wasn't terrorism should step down. You had the black flag of Al-Qaeda, of ISIS. I don't even give a damn if you're saying, well, we don't think he actually knew ISIS. He thinks he's ISIS, and he just committed a terrorist act. Come on, man.
The FBI is taking over this for a reason. There will be a lot of information that will come out. I do know individuals that are on the ground there right now. This is very serious. This is the real deal. They're going to do a very full and thorough investigation. At this point, that's all I can tell you, Griff, is that this is the real deal. You will get more information coming soon. Likely involves, I think that there's definitely some foreign terrorist organization groups involved backing this. As you mentioned, that there's been other things that have occurred in other countries recently, similar in nature. There are people that hate America. They hate our freedoms. They hate what we stand for. This is a time when people are celebrating New Year's. This is 2025. People have hope. And like you said, big bowl game going on. People are coming together, and this person was hell-bent on causing absolute destruction and chaos. The fact that the FBI said it is not terrorism. Again, I am not the spokesperson for the FBI. I am a former FBI agent. I would strongly disagree with that statement. And I do believe that it is terrorism. The fact that the FBI is taking over, that is a very strong indication. And based on information that I have, this is the real deal, and it is very serious.
Hi, Nicole. Thanks so much for being with us. This is Nicole. Question for you. Chief Kirkpatrick said that they spoke to the White House and that the FBI is going to be taking over the investigation. And then, Special Agent Duncan then came out and said, this is not a terrorism event. I feel like she was alluding to maybe at this time, what would it take for them to declare this a terrorist event? Maybe they're waiting for more information or confirmation of something, but what is it that they would be looking for to actually give it that classification?
Right. So there have been instances that I've, responded to, and initially it could go either way, right? It could go with the locals, it could go with the feds, but anytime that there's mention or indication or sign of something like ISIS, that's going to go to FBI. Okay. So anything that is declared or appears to be terrorist related, whether it is or it is not in the end, if there are any indications that it could be, that's going to automatically go to FBI. The fact that it is going to FBI, that is a strong indication of what is going on right now. Again, I have sources that this is a terrorist event.
Nicole, so if you've said some things and you hadn't said them together. You know people there, you have sources. You strongly believe this is a terrorist attack. You even went so far as to say, potentially foreign actors involved, maybe linked, similar to incidents that have happened. So if we take that at face value, if we take this idea that 2 out of 3 people essentially called it a terrorist attack, then we deduce that perhaps the assistant special agent in charge misspoke. If that were the case, is there any onus at the FBI to come back to the microphone and clear that up quickly, or wait till the next press conference? I mean, they have to know that, Fox is sitting here talking about this. The other networks are probably talking about this. Everyone's confused. Where, isn't there some sort of, is there someone in charge who would say, hey, let's go back to the microphone and clear this up real quick?
I absolutely agree with your statement. I left the FBI for a reason. Unfortunately, I can't explain what they did. I no longer work there, but I can just tell you that, they're probably being very careful to make certain statements publicly because they want to make sure that they have all their ducks in a row. And I respect that, right? But when you have people from different law enforcement agencies giving conflicting information, that's never a good thing for the American people. They deserve transparency. They deserve to understand what's going on in their communities. And I'll just leave it at that. I would hope that the FBI would clarify things as quickly as they possibly can, because there does seem to be some confusion, and that's never a good thing. But like Alexis mentioned, your reporter, when things initially break out, there always is chaos. Yeah. I worked on violent crime at the FBI, and when something breaks, it's always go, 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 and tons of information is coming in, and everyone's just trying to get all hands on deck and get things organized. Maybe that's what that was. But I just would like you to know and for viewers to know that sadly and tragically, this does appear that this wasn't just like one of the officers mentioned, this is not just someone who was drunk and drove their car into a crowd. This does appear to be quite intentional, probably very well planned out, probably didn't just come up with this idea today, probably planned this out several days in advance, maybe more.
Yeah.
This is a hot spot. This is where people celebrate. And we know that those that commit terrorist acts, their goal is to create total chaos, havoc, fear, death, and destruction. And there are people that want to see us be hurt.
Well, and you mentioned a hot spot, Nicole. Look, this is very much still ongoing. New Orleans Emergency Preparedness Homeland Security Office tweeting out at their NOLA Ready X account handle saying, because this is an active scene, we're urging residents to stay off Bourbon and to Canal, and Dumaine to Royal to Dauphine. So it appears that they are concerned about what may still exist. And walk us through maybe some of their concerns as people are starting to wake up in New Orleans. You know, what might be further concerns that they're being so careful about?
Right. So the ASAC Alethea Duncan, she mentioned IEDs. That's obviously a very serious concern, right? They need to do this is a very active investigation right now. That in and of itself, you need to stay out of the area because they've got to have all the space they need. This is a crime scene and they need everyone to stay away. And the fact that there could be other IEDs, if that was when, mentioned that they said that there were IEDs involved, they need to do major sweeps of the area. But again, active crime scene in and of itself without IEDs, stay away from the area. And I know that's not reassuring to tourists. I mean, this is the hottest spot in New Orleans. But you know what? Your safety is first. I guarantee you they're going to be evacuating the areas in that surrounding immediate area. There's going to be a lot that they're going to have to do, but I truly believe this is an act of terrorism and needs to be treated as such. And this is an all hands on deck matter. And it's very tragic that this is how we're starting off 2025 in America.
It is. It's tragic.
JLR investigates. Trump Tower, Las Vegas, Nevada. A Cybertruck blows up in front of Trump Tower. Cybertruck on fire, folks. What in the world happened here? Police give an update. FBI are investigating fireworks. One person died. This is very strange, folks. Listen to what law enforcement has to say about this.
Anticipate later this afternoon to give you much more information on what we are finding out in this investigation. But obviously, a Cybertruck, the Trump Hotel, there's lots of questions that we have to answer as we move forward. With that, I will tell you that our entire law enforcement, first responder community is here and present and working on all of the issues that we have here, one of which is the FBI. I'm going to turn that over to ASAC Jeremy Schwartz to give a couple of comments. And then immediately after that, Deputy Chief Tommy Touchstone from the Clark County Fire Department to give you a couple updates as well.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jeremy Schwartz, currently the acting special agent in charge for the FBI here in Las Vegas. First and foremost, I just want to say, our hearts and prayers go out to the community. Even though there's only one deceased victim at this time, something like this happens in the city, and it has an effect on our people here in the community. So we recognize that, and we're here to do everything that we can to support this investigation, to jump on board with our Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department partners, which we've already done. I know you're looking for a lot of answers, and ideally right now we just don't have a lot of answers. We're going to continue to work as hard as we can over the next 24 to 48 hours to hopefully get more to you. But this time we've got a lot of questions and deploying resources, and we will continue to do that until we get to the end of this and figure out exactly what happened and why. Thank you.
Good morning, Thomas Touchstone, Deputy Fire Chief with the Clark County Fire Department. Clark County Fire Department responded this morning along with Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department and Las Vegas Fire and Rescue. We had a response time of approximately 4 minutes. Engine 12 arrived first on pulling tack lines to extinguish the vehicle fire, and also realized at the same time that there were multiple persons with injuries located around the vehicle. In total, as the sheriff said, there were 7 minor injuries, 2 of which were transported to UMC, again for minor injuries, and there is 1 fatality within the Cybertruck. CCFD's remaining on scene in coordination with Las Vegas Fire and Rescue and Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department to continue to render the scene safe, to make sure that the Cybertruck is fully extinguished as it is now, and then also to recover the victim from the vehicle. And we'll remain on scene assisting Metro as long as possible. That's all I have. Thank you.
I would also just like to add, I'd like the community to please stay away from the area for right now, because we don't know what we don't. Resort partners, as you can imagine, we've had to evacuate the hotel. The vast majority of the people that were staying in the hotel have moved over to the resorts world. I'd like to thank them for their graciousness in hosting these individuals that are also victims in this as well. We'll have another, we'll let you know when the next press conference is going to be with a whole lot more information for you. But until then, I just remind the community, we believe everything is safe now. Thank you very much.
Investigation. This happened just hours after a terrible mass shooting in New Orleans, Louisiana. I don't think it's connected to New Orleans whatsoever, but the timing was definitely suspect. And why was a Tesla parked in front of Trump Tower? Fireworks in there that went off? It sounded like fireworks. I listened to some other clips of this fire, and it did sound like fireworks were going off. So this is interesting. It'll be interesting to know why this person was here with this Tesla. Is it terrorism? Is it just someone visiting the area? Fireworks, New Year's. Maybe somebody bought a bunch of fireworks, kept them in their Tesla, and some way, somehow, those fireworks caught on fire, and boom! Seems like that's the case here. But we're on this case. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification button. Thank God no one inside was hurt, but somebody lost their life, and actually 7 people got injured. But thank God nobody inside Trump Tower lost their life, like Trump or anyone like that. That would be horrible. But what's going on here? When more information comes out, you will hear it here on JLR Investigates. We will talk soon. Stay tuned.
Brief update on what occurred on Las Vegas Boulevard this morning. As you know, we just had our New Year's Eve event where we successfully protected the city, where over 400,000 people were here last night. And that changed this morning at about 8:40 when a 2024 Tesla Cybertruck pulled into the area valet of the Trump International Hotel. Very quickly thereafter that, the driver, who was the sole occupant of the truck, we saw what looked like maybe some sort of smoke, and then the truck exploded. Smoke was coming from inside of the truck after we noticed the flash and the explosion, and I'm going to show you that first video. That's the Cybertruck parked right in front of the doors. Can you play that again, Carlos? So the individual that was in that truck is obviously deceased, still in the truck as we speak here today. Our fire department folks, Engine 12, a number of others. You'll hear from one of the fire chiefs here in just a moment, arrived very quickly along with my officers. And obviously we knew that we had a much larger event than just a vehicle fire. And so there's going to be a drone video that plays to my left again. You'll see as the fire initially, they covered it with the tarp to try to get it to go out. Once the fire went out through the suppression efforts of the fire department, you'll see some of the evidence in the back of the vehicle. So those are gasoline canisters. They are camp fuel canisters and large firework mortars. What I also would like you to pay attention to on that video, as you see that, it looks like the exterior of that truck is completely intact as it sits there. The fact that this was a cyber truck really limited the damage that occurred inside of the valet, because it had most of the blast go up through the truck and out. In fact, if you look on that video, you'll see that the front glass doors at the Trump hotel were not even broken by that blast, which they were parked directly in front of. You can see that in the video there. What I will update, I'm very well aware that there's a name already been reported out into the media. I am not going to confirm any names to you as I sit here today, because I cannot do that with 100% certainty of who the individual is. What I can tell you is we do know the truck was rented in Colorado. We were able to trace that truck through the Tesla charging stations, and it arrived here in Las Vegas this morning at about 7:30 and went up and down Las Vegas Boulevard before immediately pulling into the Trump Towers. Unfortunately, there were 7 people that reported injuries during this incident. All of them still remain as minor injuries and were treated at UMC. I would like to thank the Resorts World, because as you know, we had to close down the Trump and evacuate it, as well as the Fashion Show Mall. And the Resorts World was very gracious in taking those hundreds of individuals in over there, housing them and feeding them prior to us being able to completely clear the hotel. The hotel and Fashion Show are back open for business. The Trump will remain closed as we continue this lengthy investigation as we move forward. I'm going to yield now to Chief Billy Samuels, but I'd like you to also recognize all of our exceptional elected officials that have come to support the police and the fire department and this community in remaining safe. There is no further threat to the community as I sit here today. And I just want to make sure that our community understands we believe this to be an isolated incident, and it is now over as far as the danger. So, Billy.
Thank you, Sheriff. I'm going to reiterate some of the stuff that the sheriff has spoken upon. Engine 12 did arrive within 4 minutes of dispatch, did extinguish the fire with assistance from the sprinkler systems, and along with that electric vehicle blanket that we use on those operations. We did encounter 7 victims, all stable. 2 of them were transported to UMC, who have since been released. They were transported by community ambulance. A total of 13 units from Clark County Fire with 26 personnel, and then 4 units and 17 personnel from Las Vegas Fire and Rescue assisted with this operation. We always do appreciate the support that we get from our hotel partners, as the sheriff was mentioning with Resorts World. RTC did lend us 10 buses so we can refuge the people that were evacuated from the Trump Tower. Community ambulance for their transportation for us, Las Vegas Fire and Rescue, and Nevada Division of Emergency Management. And we do appreciate their support, so we can't do that without them. And like the sheriff said, last night was a huge success, but we are prepared for whatever comes our way. So thank you for that. And I will turn this over to Special Agent in Charge, Jeremy Schwartz.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeremy Schwartz. I'm currently the acting special agent in charge for the FBI here in Las Vegas. The FBI is currently conducting an investigation on a vehicle explosion, as the sheriff had just shown you a little bit ago. That's being conducted through our JTTF, which is a Joint Terrorism Task Force. I want to make sure everybody understands that the task force is comprised of law enforcement officials from the entire valley here. We're not doing anything alone, and we wouldn't do anything alone without our partners making sure that we're all in lockstep. We've learned from mistakes in the past, and we're not going to do that again. We have a great relationship with our law enforcement partners, and we're going to continue to do so. As of right now, our number one goal is to ensure that we have the proper identification of the subject involved in this incident. Following that, our second objective is to determine whether this was an act of terrorism or not. I know everybody's interested in that word and trying to see if we can say, hey, this is a terrorist attack. That is our goal, and that's what we're trying to do. We have a ton of resources dedicated to this right now. And again, we're doing it with our partners. We're doing it together, jointly, and we'll continue to do so until we figure out exactly what's going on. I think most importantly, as the sheriff already mentioned, we believe this is an isolated incident. We do not believe that there's a bunch of folks out there supporting this or helping this, and we don't believe that there's any other danger to the community right now. But again, over the next few hours and days, we will continue to do our best to research that as much as we can and get to the bottom of this, and we won't stop until we're 100% certain as to what happened and why. Thank you.
So I just want to clarify again so that I don't get these questions. We do know who rented the truck. We are looking at that individual, but I am not prepared to release the name of any of the individuals that we are looking at least until next of kin is notified and we have a 100% identification. So with that, I'll take any questions you might have. I can't see. Hi, Dana.
Do you think it's a coincidence that there were these kinds of incidents on the same day, basically, in two tourism capitals?
Do I think it's a coincidence? I don't know. But what I can tell you is we're absolutely investigating any connectivity to what happened in New Orleans, as well as other attacks that have been occurring around the world. We're not ruling anything out yet, Dana.
Sure. Is there any possibility that this had a link to ISIS? There have been suggestions that the New Orleans attack might have.
Yeah, so the question is there any links to ISIS? And I will tell you that we don't have any indication of that here in Las Vegas. No overt ISIS flag as was seen in New Orleans. But again, we are investigating every aspect of this. And if that comes to light, we'll certainly update you. I'm sorry, sir.
What was the time between the truck's arrival and the explosion?
About 1 hour was the amount of time between the arrival of the truck here in Las Vegas, or at least our first notification of the arrival and the explosion that occurred at the tower. It was only there for about, it was sitting in the porte-cochere for about 15 seconds before it exploded. Was that 15? Where'd Dory go? The 15 to 20 seconds. I just want to make sure I gave you the right info.
Elon Musk, Tesla, and Donald Trump connection to be interesting from an investigative perspective?
Well, I mean, it's a Tesla truck, and we know that Elon Musk is working with President-elect Trump, and it's the Trump Tower. So there's obviously things to be concerned about there, and that's something we continue to look at.
Have you all found re-examine security procedures at hotels?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that question. Do we need to re-examine security procedures? You know, we were very successful in the night before. I'm surprised this happened, to be quite frank with you, and that's certainly something we're going to have to look at in target hardening, what that looks like. But to your question, Dana, I did forget to mention that I have authorized what we call an ABX roster to continue for the next 2 days, which is my New Year's Eve staffing plan of over 1,000 officers, both in our community neighborhoods as well as on the Strip and downtown, in partnership with all of the other law enforcement agencies, City of Las Vegas Marshals, North Las Vegas, Henderson, just to ensure that even if we had a copycat or somebody else wanted to go up and conduct an attack, that we have the appropriate and available resources to handle it.
Have you all found any devices inside the Cybertruck that could have been used to set off those explosives?
No, the question is, did we find any devices that would be used to set off the explosives? And the answer is no, I don't know how they were ignited. Clearly, with what you see in there, something set them off, but I don't know what it was yet. We haven't been able to process the vehicle yet.
Has LVMPD been in contact with Tesla Co. to get analytics from the vehicle cameras?
Yes, actually, I have to thank Elon Musk specifically. He gave us quite a bit of additional information in regards to how the vehicle was locked after it exploded due to the force of the nature of the force from the explosion, as well as being able to capture all of the video from the Tesla charging stations across the country. And he sent that directly to us. So I appreciate his help on that. I'll take one more question. I'm sorry, you got to speak up for me.
Elon Musk is saying this vehicle and the vehicle in New Orleans were rented from the same company. Has there been any other indication that these two events might be associated?
It's another, the question is both vehicles, I'm being told New Orleans was rented from Toro and so was ours. That's another coincidence that absolutely is continuing to bear from our investigation that we have to continue to look into. So thank you very much. And as we get additional information for all of you, I'm sorry, I'll give you a shot.
Are you investigators using any of these city license plate readers?
That's the question is, are we using the license plate readers and the technology? Well, one, you see the drone flight through the vehicle because it was unsafe to get there. So that we're using that technology, thankful to have it, as well as the first indication of that vehicle arriving here in Las Vegas came from a license plate reader. So technology has been very useful to us in resolving this. And again, I'll commit to come back to you all when we have confirmation of the suspect's name, who they are, what their background is. We will get that information back out to you. We'll call another press conference and provide it. I just like to, again, thank the mayor, the commissioners, the other law enforcement leaders, and of course our attorney general for showing up and supporting us in this event. It's been a statewide effort, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
A few moments later.
This has been a sort of interesting development. You know, the images of the Cybertruck parked outside the Las Vegas Trump property went viral. You know, sort of, I think people thought it was an accident and then no one was hurt. And so there was a sort of bizarre symbolism and then it was a Cybertruck, it was out Trump. As it's developed, it seems that this is being taken far more seriously. What have we learned about what authorities know and how they're investigating this?
Right, Chris. So according to the reporting of myself, my colleagues Andrew Blankstein and Kelly O'Donnell, right now, 3 senior U.S. law enforcement officials say that this explosion of a Tesla Cybertruck, kind of in the portico there where you saw that smoke rising from in front of Trump's property in Las Vegas, is being investigated, at least initially, as a potential act of terrorism, and that it was, quote, intentional. And there was a...
All right, guys, so it seems as if the year of our Lord, 2025, is already off to a bang. An explosive start, literally. Because the story that we have to cover here today involves what appears to be another terrorist attack in the wake of the terrorist attack that happened in New Orleans, which you had some lunatic with an ISIS flag decide that he wanted to mow down innocent people in the middle of Bourbon Street as people are celebrating the new year. Okay, an absolutely terrible attack. At least 10 people are dead. More bodies are being discovered. Horrible stories. Horrible stories. Okay. And we have another story here that could have been just as bad. This story, again, involves a Tesla Cybertruck that exploded outside of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. Now, Elon Musk and President Trump are public enemy 1 and public enemy number 2 to the mainstream liberal media. They were seen partying last night at Mar-a-Lago together, despite the reports from the media that Elon Musk was getting on Trump's nerves, okay, and that he was wearing out his welcome. It seems as if those things were not true and that their relationship is probably as strong as it's ever been, okay? It doesn't seem as if Elon Musk is actually causing Trump any real issues, okay, despite the narrative from the mainstream liberal media. So with that being said, again, there are many possible motives for this attack, but as of right now, it seems as if it's connected to whatever the motive was behind the New Orleans attack, because this Cybertruck apparently was rented using the same app that was used by the terrorists in New Orleans to carry out that attack. Okay, so it seems as if these attacks may be connected somehow, but we really don't know yet. Again, this is a very, very, very weird start to 2025. And if these events are any indication in regards to how this year is going to be, buckle up. We're in for a ride. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
We want to shift gears for a moment because we got a lot happening today, folks. We got multiple law enforcement sources now telling NBC News that the Tesla Cybertruck that burst into flames outside of the Trump International Hotel in Vegas is being looked into as a possible terror attack. You're looking at video of what happened right here. We now know, let's bring that video up, guys, if we can. We now know at least one person is dead and 7 others are hurt. Those sources also telling us the Cybertruck was rented on the same service used by the suspect in New Orleans. Tesla CEO Elon Musk reacting today on X saying, quote this, the whole Tesla senior team is investigating this matter and that they've never seen anything like this. I want to bring in Emily Ikeda, who's been on this for us throughout the afternoon. I mean, this is also this kind of fast developing story happening on the same day as this horrendous terror attack in New Orleans. Of course, as of this very moment, important to reiterate, there is no connection between the two. Nonetheless, now being investigated also in Vegas as a terror attack.
Yeah, well, I personally think that it is more likely than not that they may be connected in some way. I don't know. I think the likelihood of these attacks happening on the same day, on New Year's Day, and using vehicles that are rented from the same app, which again, I guess the Toro app is a popular app. So I don't know. Maybe it's just a coincidence. I don't know. Okay. But I just think that it is likely these attacks were probably coordinated in some way. I really don't know. But there's also a good chance that this is some message to Trump from some radicalized lunatic that decided to use a Cybertruck to send a message, right? Maybe they don't like the relationship that Elon Musk and Trump have. I don't know, okay? But I would not discount any possible motive from some radicalized leftist who hates Trump or Elon Musk and they want to send some type of message, right? Because that's kind of what it looks like, okay? In isolation, okay, if you forget about what happened in New Orleans, you take that out of it. This looks like it is some person trying to send a message to Elon Musk and Trump, okay? The Cybertruck, Trump Tower, it just makes too much sense. So again, I don't know, but I'm just telling you guys what my thoughts are initially.
That's right. Yeah. We started to get a sense for the degree of seriousness of the situation when you start to see the expanding number of resources focusing and investigating the Cybertruck explosion and fire. There's the FBI that's involved on top of the local law enforcement agencies, the fire agencies. The governor has been monitoring this as well. So as you had just mentioned, we're now learning from several law enforcement sources that this is being investigated as a possible terror attack, that officials believe at this time that it was intentional, though the motive at this point still remaining unclear. Those sources telling us that the person killed was the driver of the cyber attack. 7 others, as we have been reporting throughout the day, sustained minor injuries. Several people transported to the hospital. The sheriff says that police and fire first received reports of a vehicle fire and explosion around 8:40 local time this morning. The fire department responding within just a few minutes, 4 minutes, they say. And the sheriff also pointing out that the 2024 Cybertruck pulled up to the front glass doors of the Trump Hotel and it started smoking. Shortly thereafter, there was an explosion and fire. Witnesses described hearing a really loud sound, bangs, explosions, and then many of them had been evacuated from the hotel. They are still, while the fire is out, they're still urging people to avoid that area. We expect to get more information from law enforcement later today with another news conference expected. But throughout the day, they've been acknowledging a couple of things. Look at the timing, right? It's in the hours in the wake of this terrible tragedy in New Orleans. 2, the location. You can see that Cybertruck just outside of Trump Hotel. This is on the northern end of the Las Vegas Strip. And then also you think about who's related to the Cybertruck. Elon Musk, who you had mentioned earlier, had posted a statement earlier today. He was recently appointed a position in President Trump's second administration. We did also hear from the Trump Organization and President-elect Trump's son. They acknowledged a reported electric vehicle fire, also saying in part the safety and well-being of our guests and staff remain our top priority. We extend our heartfelt gratitude to the Las Vegas Fire Department and the local law enforcement. As you had mentioned, the Cybertruck was rented. It was rented to an individual, according to sources, for the month of December. It was the same rental company that facilitated the truck rental in New Orleans. But again, we should underscore that officials do not believe these incidents are connected at this time. So a couple questions that I have.
Yeah. So you seen that, you heard that. I think the connection between Trump and Elon Musk definitely probably plays a part in the motive behind this. Again, don't know if it's connected to what happened out in New Orleans, but I would just find it hard to believe it was complete and total coincidence that these attacks would happen on the same day. I mean, who knows? I mean, it is New Year's, so it is a day that, you know, a lot of people out celebrating, doing whatever. And I guess it is a quote unquote target day or something like that if you're going to commit some mass act of violence like this. But regardless, you know, again, this is why I've been talking about how it is very weird and creepy and something that should concern people about how much the left celebrates violence in this country. Now, again, I'm not saying that the leftists did this. I don't know yet, but I'm just saying the connection between Trump, Elon Musk, again, I think it is plausible. I think that it is probably likely that the motive could be connected to some sort of Trump derangement, some sort of hatred towards Trump and Elon. We already know that there were at least a few assassination attempts on the former president. Trump is less than a month away from being inaugurated. I just wouldn't put it past any of these radicalized leftists to try anything, right? I don't know, okay? So I wouldn't be surprised. And with the left openly celebrating political violence in this country, you're going to get more people who are motivated to do stuff like this, right? To commit acts of violence because the left is currently celebrating murderers, okay? That's what they're doing. And this is what I've talked about in regards to what it could possibly lead to. Now, again, we don't know the full motive, but just using some common sense, it is not unreasonable to ask questions about whether or not this is another act of radical left-wing extremism. I'm just saying. And that's probably part of the reason why we won't ever find out. We won't really know the motive behind this. It seems as if the individual that was involved, the driver, carried out an act of self-deletion. That's what it looks like. I'm not sure if it was an accident or what. People really don't know.
That source also revealed what was inside the truck, explosives that included fireworks, gas tanks, and camping fuel. And authorities believe that that was connected to a detonation system controlled by the driver. We're also hearing this same sentiment from Elon Musk, who tweeted out that they have now confirmed that the explosion was caused by very large fireworks and or a bomb carried in the bed of the rented Cybertruck and is unrelated to the vehicle itself. So he was clear to say that this was not an issue with the Cybertruck. And the sheriff also earlier said that they are checking for secondary devices. They're investigating many different leads, but he was clear to say that there does not appear to be any further threat to the Las Vegas community.
But hopefully we do find information. Again, I just don't trust the FBI to actually do a good job and to be competent and to prevent things like this from happening, which is exactly what I said in the last video. They're just not instilling much confidence in me, but hey, at the very least, they have identified this one as a possible terrorist attack. They haven't prematurely ruled it out just to go back and to backtrack and to change their mind and say, no, we do think it's a terrorist attack. So at least that part of it, they're not messing up on here. So we'll see what happens in regards to more information coming out. But this is a very, very, very scary start to 2025. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a black.
Coffee. Follow me.